completely clear out the board, but at least bring down the rain chances a little bit and also bring up the heat once again. Of course, closing back in on normal after several days well below average here. The next few will be in the lower and middle 80s, which is some 5 to almost 10 degrees off the mark for where we should be for this time of the year. We'll get back closer to the average by the time we head towards the end of the weekend and the start of next week. Of course, stay up to date with the very latest anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. You can download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So here's a look at the extended 10-day forecast for today. Again, on and off showers and thunderstorms continuing, 82 the forecast high. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, when it comes down to rain chances, the better chances or higher chances for rain and more widespread opportunities will be near into the south of the I-40 corridor. The farther north that you are, not as prevalent, but still possible that you'll see scattered downpours that could be heavy at times. And of course could lead up to some localized flooding concerns. But again, the more widespread chances that could be heavy will likely be farther to the south, and we could probably extend this all the way out towards your Thursday as well. Speaking of Thursday, some folks heading back to classes on Thursday. Back to school for Marion and Lee County schools. Temperatures in the lower 80s, on and off showers and storms yet again. I think for Lee County, because you're a little bit farther to the south, the coverage of rain may be a little bit more prevalent for the day on Thursday, so I'd keep those umbrellas nearby. Marion still scattered showers in place, and of course we've already got Mark Tree and Corinth back in classes. They've had to deal with the rain showers here this morning. The weekend not looking half bad. We've got the Highway 51 Music Fest going up in Covington this weekend. I think the weather all right. You'll still have to dodge some raindrops, but maybe not as many as what we will see here at least through the mid portion of the week. The weekend at least looking to be a little drier with about a 30% chance for showers and storms, more hit and miss variety showers and storms. Highs creeping back up to the upper 80s and lower 90s. At the same time, the humidity also getting a little bit more high, a little higher as well. Low 90s into next week. We may add in a few more shower and storm chances. Watching a complex of storms that could impact the area Tuesday of next week. I did go ahead and up the rain chances there as a complex of storms could drop in from the north and west, and that kind of comes by way of that ridge of high pressure building back over at least parts of the area, the ring of fire type of scenario that we will kind of break out into next week. So when you get into that scenario, these little disturbances coming out of the north and west rather than the south and west, they also get active and tend to be a bit more loud and could also feature a few stronger storms to go along with it. I don't think we're talking severe weather with the weather that we're going to have here the next couple of days, more so just the heavy rain aspect. Usually when we have more of a southwesterly flow, it's more heavy rain aspect, but when we get that northwesterly flow around those ridges of high pressure, that's when the storms get a little louder, a little stronger as well, not to mention the heat coming along with it too.
What I like about that 10-day forecast, Patrick, is the fact that even when these showers that we're seeing this week, seem to subside a little bit on Friday, the temperatures are still relatively, I guess, lower than average, right?
Yeah, all the way through at least the early portion of next week before we get back to average. Average is 92, so 86. And there's some indications on Friday that we could be a little wetter as well, so we'll have to adjust the forecast a little bit there. That could keep the temperatures a little cooler too. So the question mark is how quickly do we break out of this pattern between now and the end of the work week? That is one of the questions that we've got in the forecast. We may need to adjust the numbers again on Friday, but it does look a little drier for the weekend for upper 80s and low 90s to come back in here Saturday, Sunday, which is a little bit more typical. Yesterday, managed at 89 at Memphis International Airport before we got a little rain to move across the airport yesterday afternoon about 4:30 or so. And then, today it's just off to the races when it comes down to the rainfall. Some spots, like I mentioned, already over an inch or two in rainfall amounts across the area. Some spots could even pick up upwards of 3 inches of rainfall just in the coming hours. Of course, when I say coming hours, I mean more so just as a accumulation, not necessarily 3 inches over the course of like the next couple of hours that are going to happen. More so accumulation upwards of 3 inches in a few spots here the next from last night into this morning.
All right, meteorologist Patrick Ellis being accurate as ever. Patrick, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now the live look from our High 5 camera, Midtown Memphis, 72 degrees at 7:09. We're going to have a live report with Tavarius Haywood, who's at the scene of some breaking news in 1 minute on Action News 5's digital desk. talking about, first off, ways that dog owners can have this game and this gameplay with their pets. And I'm joined right now by San Francisco's fullback, an all-pro, Kyle Juszczyk, and his wife, Kristen. They're joining us on the digital desk to talk more about this fun game. Two people who are very successful in what they do. Of course, Kyle is one of the best fullbacks in the NFL, and Kristen is a designer of clothing. And now there is this game that dog owners and dogs can play alike. Good morning to you both. How are you?
Hey, we're doing good. Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. So tell us about this game that's going on. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so Kristen and I are both very active, very competitive, and naturally we've passed that along to our dogs, Mozzarella and Pierogi. And so we're partnering up with Purina for the Win this summer, and that's a chance for you to go outside and play with your dogs, to bond with them through a number of Purina challenges.
Awesome, I love it. So, so tell me about this this challenge. Is it a game? The dogs involved? How does it all work?
Sure. So Purina has issued 4 challenges. My personal favorite is the Busy Minute Challenge, where you have 60 seconds to show off all your dog's tricks. We love when Mitzi and Pierogi howl. It's one of our favorite things, so we're constantly having them do that. Sit, lay down, play fetch, show all your dog's tricks. Another challenge is the Begging to Play Fetch Challenge, where you go outside, bond with your dog, whether that's with a tennis ball or frisbee, go outside and play fetch with them.
Okay, all right. And then what happens? So you go through this obstacle course, you show all the tricks, then what happens? How do you compete with others?
Yeah, so you can go to PurinaForTheWin.com for a chance to win a $10,000 cash prize, along with other weekly prizes, including gift cards to Walmart and up to $500 in Purina Busy and Bag and Bone treats.
Okay, pretty cool. All right. Well, before I let you guys go, Kyle, tell us what you've been doing in the offseason and getting ready for the upcoming year. I know we got a lot of 49er fans in Memphis and the Mid-South.
Yeah. So, it's been a very busy offseason. We've been traveling a lot. I'm always training. You got to stay ready, because at the end of the day, you got to play ball.
Yeah.
And we like to include our pups with that. So a lot of me staying ready for the season is me getting outside and, quite honestly, playing with my dogs, getting down on the ground, getting on their level, and just staying active. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is getting out there and being active.
Okay, well, thank you both. Appreciate it. Kyle, Kristen Juszczyk joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Thank you so much. Okay, we want to get now to breaking news. We've been reporting all morning long of breaking news that happened on the corner of E.H. Crump and Camilla. That's where Action News 5's Tavarius Haywood is live, the site of a church fire that destroyed the entire building. Tavarius, tell me the latest. What's going on with you, and what's the latest on the investigation? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. I've been here for at least 2 hours right now, and I'm going to step out of the way. The church is a complete loss. It's Revival Temple Ministries, and Pastor James L. Moore III is the pastor. I spoke with him not too long ago, and he says he is devastated from such a loss. He says he can't even really put into words of how he's feeling right now. As you can see, as daylight is here now, basically, we're getting a better look at what the damage that this fire has caused. You can see clear through that building, and we're also learning, the pastor told me, that they share this church along with another church. So it's 2 churches right now that's actually impacted right now. Pastor Moore actually told me that they have between 100 to 200 members that attend this church. But what we do notice, Andrew, is that the cross on the front of the building seems to be unscathed right now. He says that while the building is destroyed, the church is actually in the people, and they will continue to rebuild. They will rebuild. He told me also that the demolition of the church will start here shortly at around 7:30. They did give me ways that you could help the church rebuild. I've seen several church members out here as well. Some of them who actually knew me when I was a kid, they work with my mother, and they're also devastated, you know, about losing their home church. But there's been several church members out here, you know, standing alongside with each other, consoling each other, Andrew, and it's just, whenever something like this happens at a place of worship, it impacts so many people here, Andrew.
Yeah, no question, T. And I heard the pastor talk during your interview live on Action News 5 earlier this morning. He certainly said some great words about rebuilding and about testing faith and moving forward. Any indication that there was anything suspicious with this fire? Any indication on what started it at this point? I know it's early.
Yeah, still very early in the investigation, Andrew. I talked to the pastor. He said he does not know the cause. Memphis Fire Department said the cause is unknown right now. You know, one of the blessings that comes out of this is that there were no injuries reported. You know, just again, the building is a complete loss. And also, I want to mention too that it's rush hour. Everybody's trying to get to work. Portions of Crump is closed off between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Crump, and I believe this is South Pauline Street, so you will have to find another route to work. Now, the fire department is slowly leaving the area. You know, it's really much nothing that they could do. I actually see them removing the tape, and you know, they still have police cars here blocking the road right now. So again, Andrew, this is a massive loss to South Memphis. The pastor told me he actually moved here from Virginia a couple of years ago. He moved here as a musician for one of the local churches here, and then he said the Lord called him to pastor, you know, and now this happened. So now he says he's going to rebuild. He says the Lord will provide for sure.
Let me ask you this. There are, you mentioned, a couple of churches sharing that building, T. Did he mention exactly where they're going to be holding service now that that building's a complete loss?
He didn't right now. He says they're just trying to take things one step at a time. You know, we still have a couple days to Sunday service, so I'm sure they'll have a place, and I'll be in contact with him to learn when they do decide to pick another spot, and we'll be sure to let people know where they can worship. And also he says that there are ways that people can donate. He says he's going to send me over the information so we can post it to our website in case people want to sow into the church and help them rebuild.
Okay, Action News 5's Tavarius Haywood reporting live for us this morning. T. Wood, thank you.
No problem, Andrew.
All right, another live look here from actionnews5.com. You can see there the latest stories that we are covering here. Not only the story involving the church, but also the security guard shooting another security guard outside the main event last night in Cordova. That security guard who was shot has been killed. We have the latest information here. Of course, you can also look at the pull-down menu, read everything you want, share social media on Digital Desk interviews, the Olympics, latest video, and First Alert weather. We're going to take a short break. We're back in more news, with more news on Action News 5's Digital Desk. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. More than 14 million Americans are living with a serious mental health condition, like bipolar disease or major depressive disorder, schizophrenia, that sort of thing. And sometimes people with serious mental illnesses that are taking antipsychotic medications may suffer from a condition. It's called TD. It's known as tardive dyskinesia, and it can cause debilitating, uncontrollable, repetitive movements that can make eating, drinking, walking extremely difficult. The condition can be overwhelming for people who suffer from it, causing many people to give up on treatment. Let's talk more about this condition, this issue, with a couple of people on the digital desk right now. I'm joined by Dr. Rakesh Jain, a clinical professor, Department of Psychiatry at Texas Tech University, and Sherlyn Peterson, a patient living with TD. Good morning to you both. Doctor, let me start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about TD and what are the signs and symptoms of it? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. And I listened to your opening description of tardive and my admiration to you. In one single sentence, you captured the entire plight of this condition. This is not just a movement disorder, it's a movement disorder filled with misery and suffering for the patient. And it is the consequence of having occasionally to take these antipsychotic medications for a variety of disorders. And let me just underscore one really important point you made, which is the degree of suffering that goes along with it. And even though there are 700,000 Americans who have this condition as we speak, only about 15% have been diagnosed. So we have a lot of work to do.
It sounds like it. Can you give us the signs and symptoms of what people can watch out for, doctor?
I'll be happy to. So it would be the appearance of movements that you haven't started. For example, I'll show it to you if I may. It could be this kind of nose movement or eye blinking, forehead movement. It could be jaws shifting or the lips puckering or pulling back, the neck sometimes acting out, if you will, fingers doing things that you're not intending to do, the toes not intending that thing, doing things that you're not intending for it to do. These can be very frightening, but on top of that, they can lead to falls. It can lead to trouble with chewing, talking, choking. It's a considerable disorder. It can also involve pain. It can involve embarrassment. It can involve social withdrawal. It's a whole host of things, Andrew.
It sounds like it. Over to you, Sherlyn. Can you tell us about your story living with TD, how you were able to get diagnosed with this condition?
Oh, yes, I can. Andrew, I must say that I'm excited to be here and share my TD story on behalf of Teva. I was diagnosed with TD in 2018. Prior to that, my symptoms were facial, mostly my mouth. My lips would tremble. My left side of my mouth would sag. My speech was slurred, and it was just totally embarrassing. And I experienced a great deal of shame with that. It totally changed my social life. I did not want to interact with the world. I just wanted to stay inside and hide. People would ask me if I had when I had a stroke, not if I had a stroke. And I went to several doctors and was told I didn't have a stroke, but they didn't have a name to put to what I was experiencing. And then I went to my mental health clinician and he said, "You're suffering from TD." And it felt absolutely fabulous to have a name to go with what I was suffering from. And I realized that I can take care of TD and my mental health, and I do not have to make a choice between the two. And that's just really terrific.
Yeah. Thank you so much for opening up to us about your condition, Sherlyn. What are you doing now to live with the condition? Are you on different medication? Is there a treatment plan?
Well, I'm here to share my personal journey. As far as treatment plans, I will pass that to Dr. Jan.
Sure, sure. Happy to talk about it. So, Andrew, you are right. You don't want to live with this if you can help it. So, the treatment plan nowadays often includes continuing the person on their appropriate underlying disorders treatment, which could be antipsychotic medications. And now we have a medication like Austedo, which the FDA approved some years ago, and I'm very pleased to be speaking on behalf of Teva regarding Austedo. But Andrew, here's something really cool that's happened recently, which is Austedo XR got approved by the FDA, which is once a day, one pill once a day treatment for it. Obviously, you want to think about both the safety and efficacy, but with this medication, the approval is for us to use it along with other meds that are necessary for a patient's well-being. We have 3-year data. We have to always keep safety and efficacy equally in mind. And it will be important to remember that side effects could include things like, could be multiples, but it could include things like sleep difficulties, nasopharyngitis. But we do have 3-year data that shows benefits to the tardive dyskinesia movements for our patients, while at the same time not harming their underlying disorder by stopping medications that the person might need.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Jane, but is this just this condition, this TD condition, this is a side effect of antipsychotic medication? Is that right?
It is, it is. I personally have, besides being a psychiatrist, I personally have 3 family members who take these medications, and it radically helps them. I mean, a couple of them I think are alive because of these medications. But you said it right. For some people, there can be this side effect. So what do? Well, you can't ignore the underlying condition. But if this does appear, tardive dyskinesia does appear, we're living in a time in this world where that can be identified accurately and treated accurately. And that's why I'm very interested in making sure, along with Ms. Sherlin, that people know about this disorder and know if it happens, we clinicians, along with patients, can do something to help them.
I'm so glad both of you came on the digital desk. We have thousands of people that watch here across 3 states, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas. We're getting the word out here. Dr. Jean, where can we get more information about TD and ways to treat it?
Thank you, Andrew, for making such a strong case for knowledge. Knowledge is power. And those citizens who are listening to you in those 3 states, they are being empowered by what you are sharing with them. And a great website to go visit would be austedo.com, and I'll spell that, AUSTEDO.com. It's chock full of good information, and I really like this website. It encourages and educates at the same time.
Ms. Peterson, I want to give you the last word. Anything you would like to say to maybe someone out there that perhaps has these same kind of conditions? Any advice or words of encouragement to that person?
Yes. In my case, I took care of my TD and my mental health, and I did not have to make a choice. And whoever is listening, you can make that decision as well.
All right, Sherlin Peterson and Dr. Rakesh Jain, we really appreciate your time here on the digital desk. Thank you so much for the knowledge that you passed along to us and our viewers this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and
about scams. I know we all hate them. I hate them. But this next segment is a perfect opportunity to help you learn ways to avoid the latest digital scams. And joining us this morning is Ben Chance. He's the Chief Fraud Risk Management Officer at Early Warning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you. I've been waiting for this interview all morning long because we all know about scams. I spent a lot of time online this morning. So here's a $1 million question. Can we avoid scams altogether? Is that even possible?
I think you can avoid being the victim of a scam, but unfortunately, we lead digital lives, and scammers know that. So what we can't avoid is that email, phone, text message, or that scam that might be occurring in social media or even in a digital marketplace. So unfortunately, you're going to be exposed to scams as a consumer, but that doesn't mean you have to be the victim of scams as a consumer. And hopefully I'll be able to provide some tips on how to prevent that.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we can't avoid them altogether, what are some of the common scams that you notice, or some of the current trends that are currently affecting some consumers?
So scammers are smart. They understand what we do as consumers, and they follow those consumer behavior patterns. So during the summer, we tend to see an increase in concert ticket and festival related scams. We also see, of course, an increase in vacation rental related scams. And then as consumers, we typically do home improvement, or maybe we move over the summer months. And so scammers know that, and they target those just normal changes in consumer spending patterns. They know that. They follow us just like, in order to try and exploit that, frankly.
During the summer months, do you see more scams than what you usually see throughout other months?
Not necessarily more scams. Again, it's more of the mix might change towards consumer behavior. So it's not that those scams can't occur during the rest of the year, and certainly there can't be other types of scams, but again, they're really sophisticated, and they know what we want to be doing during the summer, and that's where they target us. They prey on those emotions. They know what we're trying to go after, and that's why they present those scam messages to us to try and dupe us into doing something we wouldn't ordinarily do.
Okay, so let's jump right into it then. Let's talk about some of those best practices that we can do starting today to help us avoid becoming a victim. Why don't you just go ahead and break that down for us?
Yeah, so first and foremost, only use Zelle to pay people you know and trust. We invest heavily in both technology and consumer education, and we've been able to drive nearly a 50% reduction in the fraud and scam rate on the Zelle network over the last year, while the network grew nearly 30%. But of course, more needs to be done on both of those dimensions. At the same time, as a consumer, I would encourage your audience never to give away their bank account details. That includes a one-time passcode or a PIN. Your bank's never going to ask for that. If you give that up, you're actually giving away access to your account. And then lastly, I would say don't trust the caller ID that's being presented to you. Let it go to voicemail. If you think it's a legitimate request, call the number that's on your billing statement, if it's your bank or a service provider, or even on the back of your debit card. That's the best way to make sure you're talking to an authorized representative of that company, and you're not talking to someone that's trying to impersonate that company and frankly scam you out of your hard-earned money.
Yeah, that's a good advice, and I know that's a lot to take in on this interview, but those who are watching this morning and they want to know more, they want to learn more, how can they do that?
They can go to zellepay.com/safety-education. That has resources on how to spot scams, but also if you've been the victim of a scam, it has resources on how to report that to your financial institution, as well as the Federal Trade Commission.
All right, again, that was Ben Chance with those helpful tips. Was there anything else that you wanted to add today that I did not ask you about?
No, just thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it.
two churches share the building?
I'd say CMT would keep T-Wood at church and Mario Council and not but I don't know it.
So like Melissa, she said maybe since he with the council Mario Church, I think Slaughter would be better.
Believe it or not, the summer has flown by, and we're already talking about back to school items, back to school things, making sure our kids are ready to go for the upcoming school year. One of the things that oftentimes gets overlooked is a back to school eye exam. It's so very important. I'm joined now by Dr. Stephen Reed, who can talk more about the importance of an eye exam for all those kids going back to school. And Dr. Reed, good morning to you. I would think that that can really have an impact on learning, classroom activity, all sorts of things, right? Good morning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're very right on that. Yeah, an eye examination is not only an important checklist item, it's an essential item. And let's take it back just a moment. There's two main reasons for that, and I want to go back to more of that preschool years, and then I'll talk about how it affects the grade levels. But when a child is born, their vision is not supposed to be 20/20. But just like the rest of their bodies develop, but so does their visual system. Well, if there happens to be something that's affecting that child's vision, then that can change that pathway to that visual system, so that down the road, whenever the elasticity of that process completes, then some of those vision disorders can actually be locked in. So it's very important to catch it even before school starts. Then once school does start, it's critical for learning, because it's estimated that 80% of what a child learns is through their vision. So we want to make sure we level the playing field. If there happens to be a vision disorder, let's address that. Let's give that child every chance to succeed in the classroom.
Yeah, I was live. Absolutely, 100%. And Dr. Reed, let me ask you this, because I'm curious, over the last, 20 years or so, with the advent of smartphones, how has that changed the eye exams when it comes to students, when it comes to some of those teens out there? Are they more deficient with their sight? Explain, and can you also explain how important it is to catch that during these back-to-school eye exams?
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you think about the way the normal eye works for a moment, anything you look at within about 20 feet or closer, the internal eye muscles have to tighten up in order to focus in to see that clearly. So kind of like focus in a camera. And the visual system is made to be very flexible so that you can look up close and you can see, and you can look far off and you see there, and it goes back and forth. But if we spend hours and hours and hours, especially as children, on these up-close devices, then the visual system can actually kind of get locked into that, and you can have initial issues such as eye strain or headaches. Well, your brain can say after a while, let's just stop with all the strain and let's just make you nearsighted. And so the child becomes nearsighted, so now, up close is nice and comfortable, but the distance is blurry, and they have to wear glasses or contacts all the time. So if we catch this early, we can catch the early signs of eye strain, and then we can mitigate that. Many times we can decrease or slow that process down and help the child have a much better vision down the road. And I might say real quick, this is useful for adults as well as children. There's a technique we have called the 20-20-20 rule. And about every 20 minutes of extended screen work or even just reading in books, take a moment, look at something 20 feet or further away, because 20 feet, your eyes are totally relaxed, and do that for 20 seconds or more. So maintaining that flexibility is key, and that can prevent a lot of problems as well, not only for children, but for adults. Oh, real quick, one more thing. So you mentioned earlier about the impact. We right now see double the amount of nearsightedness in this decade versus the previous decade. So it's absolutely making a difference.
I bet it is. All right, so we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk Doctor. If someone is seeing this and thinking, okay, I need to get my kid to an eye doctor as quickly as possible, get them before they start classes, How do they begin the process? How should they, look for something like that?
Yeah, well, the American Optometric Association website, which is aoa.org, has a wealth of information. And there's also a doctor locator. So in case you don't have a family eye doctor, you can type in your zip code and a list of doctors near you will populate. And so that'd be the first thing, is just to hop on there. It's also a great source of other eye health information. So I would encourage you to start with that.
Okay, anything else, doctor, before we let you go?
Well, I would say, since we're talking in Memphis, don't forget about Southern College of Optometry, which is there in Memphis, and they also can do a wonderful job and do a wonderful job in taking care of the community.
All right, Dr. Stephen Reed, we appreciate you. Back to school eye exams, so important for all those kids out there across the Mid-South. Thanks for your time, doctor. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Good morning. Welcome back to the action.
The first new potential PTSD treatment in 25 years, and helping us or telling us more about this treatment is Dr. Lori Sutton. She's a retired military officer and U.S. Army vet. Wade, good morning, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Great to be here.
We're glad to have you on the digital desk. Upon my research, I read that suicide rates within the military and veteran communities are increasing. Actually, from 2015 to 2020, it increased by 41%. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and it's a serious problem that all of us should be concerned about. And it's not just for veterans. We have a suicide epidemic across America. And when it comes to PTSD, it affects over 13 million Americans. It's not just a military or a veteran problem. It affects our relationships, how we work, how we play, how we function, our families and communities, and it can be very stigmatizing. So it's really important to have new tools in the PTSD treatment toolkit.
And I love that point that you made, not just for the veteran community, but everyone. This could impact everyone. So tell us a little bit about this new treatment. Can you go into details about that?
Absolutely. MDMA is an investigational treatment for PTSD. It's currently under review by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. It's a pharmaceutical manufactured drug which is delivered safely in a clinical setting with therapy. And it's really shown some remarkably positive and promising results for veterans who desperately need treatment for this complex and debilitating condition.
So how can this, I know you mentioned this treatment, but how can it make just improvements quickly? Like how is this different from certain treatments that we've used in the past?
Well, the current treatments, while they've helped some, not nearly enough. They take time, they're not tolerable, they don't achieve a positive enough effect, they're not durable. And so it's really important to have additional tools in the toolkit. And I think you're not going to even recognize going forward the advances that have come through in addition to MDMA assisted therapy. It's a very exciting time. There is hope on the horizon. And yes, we need new innovative PTSD treatments.
Mm-hmm. And with this new treatment, can you go give us more details about how it is different from previous treatments? What sets this treatment apart?
I think that's an important question, Wade.
Oh yeah. So I was gonna say this. I was in this drug trial for MDMA assisted therapy, and it's different because it's a two-part. It's the MDMA and the therapy combined, and my experience overwhelmingly positive. I had previously spent 10 years trying different types of therapies, medications, and treatments, and didn't they stopped things from getting worse, but they didn't necessarily make things better for me. And with this trial, it the drug gives you space to kind of process things in a different perspective, and the therapists are in the room to kind of arm you with tools to navigate that space. And the results were overwhelmingly positive for myself.
Elaborate on some of those positive results. I know you use the word positive. What would you add to that?
So previously, I would say I was hypervigilant. I was always worried that something terrible was just around the corner. It made it impossible to relax, and it just kind of sucked the joy out of life. So having these tools and having processed old traumas and feeling confident that I can overcome new traumas, it makes me hopeful that I won't have to avoid life. I can move forward through it and enjoy life, and just instead of avoiding it.
So who can receive
So
this
I want to thank you for.
Oh, go ahead.
It's still experimental right now.
Okay.
It's experimental right now. It's still in the trial phases. It's not available to the general public. But if you'd like to know more, there's the PTSD.va.gov is the national PTSD website. And if anyone is having struggles with PTSD, there's resources online with the VA and other advocacy groups. And if anyone's in crisis, veterans and civilians, just like 911, you can dial 988. And if you're a veteran, just press 1.
This is.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we wrap this up, I know this is a very important conversation, also a difficult conversation to have as well. But why is it important for us to continue to explore different treatments and to have these conversations?
There is a lot of suffering right now, Taylor, and we have to keep hope on the horizon. We have to keep this conversation going and raise awareness so people know that there is help out there. You're not alone. So thank you so much for your part in helping keep hope on the horizon. Much appreciated.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. There are a ton of things on TV and other areas where children are involved. And sometimes parents are put in a difficult position on how to explain exactly what kids are seeing. And, a couple weeks ago, there was an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump's life. How do you talk about that with your young child? Well, that is a great question. And there's going to be other events that are very traumatic, and it's important to figure out exactly the best methods on ways to discuss these types of situations with young children. I'm going to bring in someone to really kind of help us out, Assistant Director of Clinical Services at Youth Villages, Lindsay Pate, joining us on the digital desk. Lindsay, I appreciate you being here. So where do we begin when there is a traumatic event and it's all over the place and we see it over and over and over again? The small children are seeing it and they start asking questions. How do we make that conversation the very best it can possibly be without being too dramatic? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So truly, the first thing is before we even begin to talk to our children is to monitor your own reactions. And so making sure that you have a handle on how you're feeling and the worries or fears that might be related to your experiences. Once you have a self-check completed, then really making sure that you are taking those opportunities to talk with your children one-on-one. If you have older children and you suspect that they may hear the news at school, on the bus, out in the community, if it's important to you, make sure you prioritize talking to them so you can manage the information that's coming into them before they hear potentially upsetting or concerning information from other sources.
Where do people, Lindsay, parents specifically, where do they get in trouble? Where do they go down the wrong path when trying to explain something to their kids?
I think, one of the things to keep in mind for any child, whether it's very young or teenager, is look at their age and look at their stage in life. And so I'm speaking very clearly, factually, and limiting the information. So whether that means turning off the news in your home, I know this is a news station that I'm speaking to, so it's always going to be running in your households most likely, but the most that we can do to contain the messaging, but also be available for when they do have questions that come up. Really looking to say, I know my child, I am the expert on my child. So if I'm seeing changes in their behavior, if I'm seeing fears or worries coming up, really looking to how I can go back to rituals and family routines, because structure is stable and soothing for kids of any age. And so whether that's sitting down for a family dinner, getting out and taking a walk, prioritizing good sleep and diet, these are all things that are regulating for kids as well as adults.
You know, a lot of times when my kids were young, my wife and I just tried to shield them from as much bad news as possible. But sometimes, friends or, someone at school will say something that happened that was traumatic, that's all over the news. And then, they're trying to figure out exactly, what to do. And so, we're just all trying to think of maybe some bullet points out there for some parents that can just say, okay, here's where you start, and here's a couple of other bullet points. If you could name like 3 things that you could give in terms of advice for parents out there of how to broach a subject like that, where would you start?
Yeah, well, there is no perfect way to be a parent, and there is no perfect way to have these conversations. So again, knowing that you are the expert on your own child and your family and how we talk about hard things, it really is let me sit down, ideally one-on-one. Again, if you have multiple children in the home, they're likely different age ranges, and so their needs are going to differ based on that. So whether it's one-on-one, face-to-face across at the dinner table with older children who may be able to handle kind of that back and forth dialogue, or younger children who may need to get out and shoot some hoops with you or walk around in the neighborhood, move their bodies in order to process what they're hearing. Really looking at who your child is and how they best receive information. And secondary, saying, bad things do happen, and we don't always have the answer for why or for how to understand what took place. And so it's okay as a parent to acknowledge your own limitations and say, I don't know why this happened, or if I don't have the information, I will find out and we can talk more. So not necessarily having it be a one-time conversation, but to let them know, here's what I know now. What questions do you have about that? You can come back, because their little brains will listen out and process and may not digest all the information there in that moment, but potentially you will see with younger children, big tragic events, whether it's a shooting, community violence, natural disaster, that may come out in their play. And so if you're observing that change in behavior, days, weeks, potentially months down the line, then that's a conversation to come back and say, I've noticed, let's come back, do you have new questions? And so, recognizing you're the expert on your child, you as an adult, it's okay to have limitations and to acknowledge that to your child. And 3, continue to monitor and pay attention and welcome ongoing communication and conversation, because that dialogue is truly what's going to be regulating for the child and relational, knowing that, hey, my parent is available for me, my caregiver is watching and paying attention, and they want to take care of me.
I would think somewhere in there, Lindsay, it's probably poignant to explain to the kid, your child, that everything's safe. You're good, you're safe, reassure them, because a lot of times they see this stuff and maybe I don't know, maybe they worry about their own safety. Is that common?
Yeah. I'd say, and it is something, I mean, we as adults struggle with this too. Why do these things happen? Unfortunately, with really tragic and publicized events, a lot of times we hear it frequently and often, and the speculation of the why and the how and the who, the information may simply never come. And so that kind of push-pull of I want to know, but I may never know can be exceptionally frustrating, even as a person with a fully formed brain who can understand the consequences of actions and challenges. Young people don't necessarily have that same benefit. And so explaining, again, very simple, clear language, yes, this bad event took place. No, I don't know why. We're doing everything we can to make sure that you are safe. Here are the people that you can talk to when you're feeling unsafe, whether it's parents, caregivers, trusted neighbors, classroom teachers, school guidance counselors, and just recognizing it's okay to talk, and it's actually a good thing to reach out when you're feeling sad, worried, angry, because every emotion is valid. It's what you do with the emotions that sometimes we need help.
This is all great advice, Lindsay. Is there a place we can go, perhaps online, to look at some of these, pointers, suggestions, ideas for parents out there?
So certainly, one of the things that I would offer, at Youth Villages, we have a blog, and there is actually an article online that we have. I can share for you guys to put up with this video later. Just tips to how to talk to your children when tragedy strikes. The National Child Traumatic Stress Network is a great national organization that has a lot of handouts and quick videos, but also information on how to get referrals if you feel like your child truly does need more professional help. Obviously, with kids heading back to school here in the very near future, guidance counselors, classroom teachers, school principals can also be great referral sources. Your pediatrician is often going to have community resources to access. If you have urgent concerns, if you're worried about your child with respect to suicidality or other crisis situations, texting or calling 988, which is our emergency mental health hotline, lifeline, is obviously the best way to get urgent care. But we also have a number of resources online for families to access.
Okay, Lindsay Pate, Youth Villages Assistant Director of Clinical Services. We appreciate your insight. Thank you very much for coming on the Digital Desk. I really think that helped a lot of parents out there. We have thousands of viewers that watch us each and every morning. We appreciate your knowledge on this morning. Thank you.
Of course.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm Andrew Douglas. And did Ancestry just crack the DNA code of champions? That is a question that we are trying to answer this morning to celebrate the launch of 30 new performance traits, including speed, physical flexibility, determination, and more, Ancestry has now analyzed the DNA of more than a dozen champions from across the world. Let's bring in someone to talk more about this issue right now. I am joined by Krista Cowan. She is an Ancestry genealogist, and she is joining us on the digital desk. So, Krista, I'm fascinated by this. Tell me the latest with Ancestry with regards to DNA of the world's greatest athletes. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, this summer, Ancestry launched 30 new performance traits, such as self-discipline and speed and hand-eye coordination. So people who take an Ancestry DNA test can now learn about how their genetics may have influenced their athleticism. And to celebrate that, we analyzed the DNA of more than 15 professional athletes from around the world, including names people might recognize like Gabby Douglas and Nastia Lukin and Jackie Joyner-Kersee. And we are inviting people to compare their DNA results to these athletes for a limited time.
Okay, so tell me exactly, how this would work. I've done 23andMe, and I have family members who have done Ancestry as well, and there are some similarities. There's also some differences. But tell me, if someone were to do Ancestry, how would this new revelation impact their findings?
Yeah, so Ancestry has a team of geneticists who are constantly looking for how our genes affect how we show up in the world. And of course, our genetics aren't the only determining factor, but these performance traits are a particularly interesting package of things that you can start to look at how they all interact together. So it might be really great if you have endurance fitness or a sprinter gene or the ability to hold your breath for a long time. But when you start to compare that or combine that with things like competitiveness and endurance and quick reflexes, those things are, I think, what start to come together to create real performance athletes.
Okay, so you have the DNA of these athletes. What about environmental factors? How do they impact someone's genealogy, traits, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you think one of the athletes that we've worked with is Gabby Douglas. Now, of course, she's a gymnast who excels on the balance beam, and her genes actually say she's less likely to have good balance. So when you think about the things she had to have in order to overcome that limitation, means her performance is that much more impressive. So things like competitiveness, which 88% of these performance athletes have a propensity for, or things like self-confidence, which nearly 70% of them have in spades. And so it's really interesting to think about, again, that contrast between actual physical athleticism and mental toughness and how those two work together.
It's interesting. I find it all fascinating. So if someone, and we have thousands of people who watch us, Krista, each and every morning here on the digital desk. So if someone were to go to Ancestry, buy the package, send in the DNA, how can people then match up their traits with some of these elite champions?
Yeah, if you just go to ancestry.com/bring-your-DNA-game. And if you've already taken the Ancestry test, you can go there and you'll see the comparison feature. If you haven't yet, they are on sale until the end of the month for $49.
Okay, Krista Cowan, Ancestry genealogist, joining us on the digital desk. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Krista.
Thank you.
All right, another live look from our High Five camera there. Downtown Memphis, still cloudy out there, still kind of wet as well. We got some showers around our area. Meteorologist Patrick Ellis give us the deep dive and the details for the next 7 days in 1 minute.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area. As you head down towards central Mississippi, some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. But even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances are higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us is going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperatures running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days. Though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week, staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I have a couple of stories here that I've printed off from our man downtown at Memphis City Hall. I'm joined right now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Sam Hardiman, Daily Memphian, City Beat writer and reporter there. Sam, always good to see you. How was your weekend? Good?
It was good. Thank you, Andrew. How was yours?
Oh, yeah, it was great. I played a bunch of pickleball. I don't know if you're a fan, but I've been playing it, and I see what the hype is. It's so much fun out there, and I highly recommend it.
I'm not a pickleball guy. I think I'm like well documented in my anti-pickleball takes, but I'm very happy for your happiness.
Yes, yes. Well, it gets my wife and I out and about. She isn't a golfer, or else I'd go play golf with her. So, but she likes pickleball, and so that's what we do. But I had a chance to read some of the stories that you've been working on, and I want to get to them right now. There's one that really has piqued my interest here, where Mayor Paul Young has hired a New York Police Department consultant, or rather a New York Police Department official as a public safety consultant. And it sounds like this person has done this in other cities. And I'm curious, what do we know about this person and how effective are they?
Yeah, so first, Mayor Young hired Fausto Pichardo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is the former chief of patrol for the New York City Police Department, and he resigned from that role in 2020. And since then, he's been a consultant. He notably recently worked for a good length of time with the New Orleans Police Department, where he was essentially the consulting chief of operations. And that was lengthy. They were facing many of the same problems in New Orleans that the city of Memphis is facing here, which is a dwindling head count. They're under a consent decree. The New Orleans Police Department is under a U.S. Department of Justice consent decree. The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the city of Memphis for civil rights violations, and a consent decree is probable in a lot of ways. In terms of his effectiveness, I think, and I've said this before, Andrew, I think it's really difficult to judge how a police department performs and really how an individual consultant performs. We don't have complete visibility into what people do and what is implemented and what isn't implemented, but it's certainly a really fair question.
How was he? Do we know much about his tenure in New Orleans and how successful he was for the law enforcement down there?
We know that he had a very influential role. He had a lot of access, and he had a lot of ability to, I think, recommend things. I don't know if he had the ability to make changes. I haven't read, and I would have to really see his contract and his scope of work down there to understand that. He gave an interview to, I think it's WDSU. I don't know what station that is down there. And we referenced that in my story, which you can find on dailymemphian.com. One of the things he noted, which I thought was really interesting, and I think Memphians will be really interested to hear, is he said, yeah, obviously rapists, murderers, people pulling triggers, those are, and I'm paraphrasing him here, are really important, and they need to get off the streets. But he also talked about essentially property crime, that, we've all experienced, most people in Memphis either know someone or have had their car broken into, right? And what he was talking about is, like, can a police department take 1 or 2 calendar days out of a month, so just days out of the month, and just go knock on doors for the people who are suspected of a broad swath of property crimes and try to get them off the street and try to solve those crimes and sort of lower people's perception of feeling unsafe? And I thought that was a very interesting thing that he said in that television interview, and I would encourage people, we linked it in the story, to go watch it if they want to see it.
I like hearing that. I also like the fact that the city of Memphis and the Memphis Police Department looking at the New York Police Department, because I do remember several years ago, and this is going back maybe a decade or longer, Sam, that we used the New York Police Department, a lot of their crime initiatives, to implement more savvy, data-driven police initiatives with Memphis Police's Blue Crush. And that was very effective with Larry Godwin a number of years ago, where at one point Larry Godwin's last year as Memphis Police Director, it was under 100 homicides, which you think about it now where it's almost at 400, under 100 homicides, which was a incredible number. And again, they used data and data-driven technology to really kind of hone in on some of the hot spots. I also like the fact that Pichardo, I think is his name, is not being paid by the city of Memphis or the Memphis Police Department. Explain that for our viewers.
Yeah, he's not. I was, the first thing when you see a consultant and you're covering government is like, well, how much is this person getting paid? How much taxpayers are paying them? And so when I pulled up the contract yesterday and looked at it, Pichardo is not getting paid by the police department. Instead, or the city, he is instead getting paid by First Horizon Bank, the Memphis-based regional bank here. The terms of his compensation, the LLC that is attached to him, are not disclosed. I think that's interesting. We'll see if that is public record, or if his compensation, because it's being paid by the private sector, isn't public record. We'll certainly test that. But yeah, right now, city taxpayers are not paying for this consultant.
I wonder, and you mentioned in the article that this is a part of Mayor Young's kind of broader focus on really honing in on some of the aspects of tackling crime, something that he mentioned on the campaign trail, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right? So Mayor Young has now been in office for 7 and change months, I guess. No, 6 and change. I'm sorry, I'm doing the wrong math. And so, he's moved, I wouldn't say slowly, I would say deliberately. The mayor is someone who learns, someone who observes quite a bit, and now is starting to make some decisions. He obviously let go of Assistant Chief Sean Jones about a week and a half ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago. And he's also making this move right around the same time. And so I think people should be focusing, and because I think they're starting to see the steps that the new mayor is taking, right? He didn't come in guns blazing and, just change everything overnight. But now 6+ months in, you're starting to see some moves being made. And I think they're really worth watching. And one of the things that he said right after he got elected, right? Because people say a lot of things on the campaign trail, they're trying to get votes. After he got elected, he, in an interview with the Daily Memphian with me, and then he's said it elsewhere since then, all over the place, is he wanted a pandemic-like response to crime. And he wanted to tame, I think, the chaos on the streets and the chaos that people feel. And I think that's one of the things the mayor has been really felt a lot since he's taken office, and since he really won election, is that people really want to see, we've talked about it before, Andrew, like you drive down 240, you don't want to see somebody weaving in and out of traffic at a high rate of speed with drive-out tags, right? Which is almost a frequent occurrence. If you just drive around the loop, chances are you'll see somebody doing that, right? And so I think that you can look at this and see it as the early steps to maybe changing some of that. Whether, the proof is always going to be in the pudding. And so whether the results line up, whether we see a decrease in homicides, from the peak that we had last year of 398 homicides, you're talking about, 10, 11, 12 years ago, under 100 homicides in the city of Memphis. That's wild. I mean, that's wild considering that city of Memphis in a 3-month span can probably have 300 homicides, depending, how it's going. So we're really going to see what the mayor has going forward. And this is definitely a first step.
Yeah. And, we're all, cheering any kind of positive result, because this is one of those where it's like we're all hoping that the mayor can bring a calmness, a peace to the city, and also bring down and reduce drastically some of the crime that is plaguing currently the city. I loved your other article here, really kind of focusing on a person who's been a public servant for so long, someone that I know who used to work here at Action News 5 a long time ago, but has been in the public service realm for a long time and just retired. Tell me more about Steve Schuler.
Yeah, Steve Schuler just retired as, I guess, special assistant to the mayor for neighborhood concerns, and that's a fancy title for really unglamorous work. Steve, as many people know, and writing that story, I've gotten so many emails. Everyone's got a Steve Schuler story. And Steve Schuler, for the past 5-6 years, maybe 7, I think, has worked returning to city government and has really worked on blight remediation, unmowed lawns, like resident complaints, right? Things that are afflicting a neighborhood. People call him, and he would work to fix them, and he would try to find solutions within city government. And he also had the ear of now Mayor Young, but for a long time really serving with Mayor Strickland, former Mayor Strickland, and really sort of trying to give people the results that they ask for from their government and really give them access to the very top of government. And this wasn't just special favors. These are people just in the neighborhoods calling Steve and asking him to work on their behalf, and that's what he did. And he did it with a lot of class and a lot of politeness over the years. And like I said, everyone's got a Steve Schuler story. He just retired last week. He was at WMC in the 1980s. He was working on consumer watchdog type stories then, the same type of stuff he started working on at City Hall. He worked in Shelby County government. He worked for Methodist Le Bonheur. He's done it all, and he's really been one of the people that works behind the scenes to make things a little bit better every day for Memphians.
Yeah, and just such a nice guy with an incredibly positive and upbeat disposition. Really enjoy him. I would recommend all our viewers to check out your articles at dailymemphian.com. Sam Hardiman, anything else before we let you go?
Nope. Hope you stretch before pickleball, Andrew, and everyone have a great week.
Yes. Sam Hardiman. Always appreciate the discussions, man. And one of these days we'll hit the golf ball around. I look forward to that day, whenever it is. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Man.
It's that time of the year where everyone wants to get out and have some fun in the sun, but you got to put safety first. And here with safety tips on ways we can protect our skin while out in the sun is Dr. Anna Yang with Regional One Health. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's not really a sunny day today, but this is still a very important topic for us to discuss. So let's just jump right into it. Why is it so important to protect our skin from the sun's rays?
Well, even though it's not a sunny day, those sunny days are definitely coming soon. Your sun is your kind of enemy towards your skin, actually. Your skin is your body's barrier. It protects all of your insides from the environment and everything that's out there. The sun is important for you for, vitamin D. It can also help, increase your mood. It helps regulate your sleep patterns and your circadian rhythm, but it also can be really damaging to your skin and pretty quickly as well. Too much sun can cause early aging to your skin, all those wrinkles that we hate and try to get rid of, sunspots, dryness, and, worst case, the sun can also cause skin cancer.
Yeah, and I'm one of those. I love being outdoors. Is there a such thing as too much sun, though?
There's definitely such thing as too much sun, but if you protect yourself correctly, you can stay out a lot longer than otherwise. So make sure if you're outside, you stay hydrated, and you definitely use sunscreen, at least SPF 30 if possible.
Okay, that's great advice. Would you also say, I know there are several different myths about wearing sunscreen only during the summer, should we have that sunscreen year round?
Yeah, I would actually personally recommend sunscreen year round, at least SPF 15 year round. And then during the summer months, when the sun is stronger, at least 30 or higher. Just daily sunscreen just helps a lot of different things. I mean, you get exposed to UV rays when you don't realize it. Even on cloudy days, you get exposure to UV rays.
Yeah, and I feel like is a key to it. I have sunscreen in my primer, so I'm able to use it every day, a part of my makeup, skincare. So I think that's just an easy takeaway from that. Is there a certain time of the day that's better to be outside?
Well, the sun is strongest towards late morning and early afternoon. So if you can avoid those times, it's a little bit better. Towards the earlier morning and towards the later afternoon, evening, the sun is not quite so harsh.
Gotcha. Yeah. What about, so let's get back into that subject of sunscreens. When you're applying it, what are some things that we should remember or things that we should know when it comes to trying to purchase sunscreen and figure out what's the best fit for you?
Yeah, in general, as long as the SPF is over 30, really any sunscreen is good. Just make sure you get it everywhere. Don't forget, your nose and your ears, and don't forget your lips too. Sunscreen lip balm is important as well.
Absolutely. And I think it was like a year ago, I went to the beach, and that was the first time I realized it was like, I probably need sunscreen on my lips as well. I think a lot of people forget about that one.
Yep, that's definitely true. The other thing is, I mean, they say darker skin can't get skin cancer, and that's definitely not true.
Yeah.
It's harder for people with darker skin to get skin cancer, but it's still important that even people with darker skin also wear sunscreen.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that. And speaking of sunscreen, I know there's a lot of debates as far as if a spray is more effective than a lotion. What would you say to that particular debate?
It really shouldn't make any difference. If you're using it correctly, just, still make sure even with the spray that you're getting it in everywhere and kind of rubbing it anyway. Even if the ones say, don't necessarily have to rub it, I would still just to make sure you're getting it everywhere and getting it evenly distributed. But as long as you get it on you, it's going to work. That's the most important thing.
You're right. And if you're using it everywhere, I mean, you probably have to buy them pretty often. Do they expire?
They do expire. The ingredients can expire, and when they do, they're generally less effective. So make sure you check before you start using it to make sure it hasn't expired.
Yeah. Even on days like today, where, I mean, right now we're not seeing much sun, but would you still recommend using sunscreen before you head out the door?
I would. And if you hate sunscreen, then, consider at least wearing, some sort of shade covering, whether it be, a hat or, long sleeves, even though it's warm. There are really loose fabrics out there that are, light and loose and don't feel, so constricting and so warm. I mean, ideally sunscreen on every part of your skin that's exposed. But if you have less exposed skin, you don't have to wear so much. But yes, even on cloudy days, I would still recommend sunscreen.
Good advice. Now, also, wasn't on my list. It actually just came to mind. But for our children as well, would you recommend? Is there a certain age frame to when you need to start using sunscreen?
As early as possible. Every child, every person should wear sunscreen, especially the young ones. I mean, when you're really young, your skin is very, very sensitive. So if you're, taking your little ones outside, make sure they're covering up as well and getting some sunscreen on.
I love that. Well, I know there are a lot of summer plans. A lot of that involves being outside. So this is very helpful. Dr. Yang, was there anything else that you wanted to add that I did not ask you today?
No, just, stay safe out there, have a good time, protect your skin, stay hydrated, and stay safe.
All right. Again, that was Dr. Anna Yang with Regional One Health. Thanks so much for chatting with us on the digital desk, and we look forward to chatting with you again. We'll see you.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area. As you head down towards central Mississippi, some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. But even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances or higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us. It's going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperatures running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days. Though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week, staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There is an art auction and party that is happening right now till the end of this month at Memphis Botanic Garden. I'm joined right now by Carly Zamora. She is the adult education coordinator there at Memphis Botanic Garden. Such a gem in our area. And I see behind her, she has some of that art. I bet that art is up for auction. Is that right, Carly? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of decided today that we wanted to give you guys a taste of what our art auction actually looks like. So the art auction itself is actually called Incognito. That is going to be all of our different pieces in our gallery, and we just wanted to show you guys a little tasting.
Fantastic. So it is Incognito Art Auction and Party, and I believe that this has been going on for well over a decade. Is that right?
It has. So I believe it's been about 12 years that the Memphis Botanic Garden's been doing Incognito. We actually partner with Artist Link. Artist Link is kind of a lot of the faces behind a lot of the art pieces you'll see. So this year for Incognito, we actually have over 111 different pieces that you'll be able to come to the garden and see. Like I said, this is about 6 of them. So all different styles. You'll see some that are a little bit remnants of the Memphis Botanic Garden themselves. Also, if you have different styles, we have a lot of different tastes for a lot of different people. So a bunch to see.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, so if someone, we have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here, Carly. If someone sees some of this and perhaps they're interested in maybe garnering some of that art, what's the best way for them to kind of check it out, look at it, and then bid on it?
Absolutely. So post-COVID, we actually switched to an online bidding platform, which is amazing because that means no matter where you're from, whether it's Memphis or even if someone's outside of the state and they know that maybe a family member or a friend would like this art, if you go to MIMBG, our Memphis Botanic Garden website, and you go under our upcoming events, you'll see Incognito. If you click on Incognito, it'll take you right to the bidding website. All of our bids actually start at $50 and they go up $10 from there. Or if you're interested in the piece and you really have to have it, you can do our Buy It Now option. Buy It Now is $300, but that means that that piece is guaranteed yours. And we actually had someone have a Buy It Now about 15 minutes prior to taping right now.
Fantastic. And I understand the actual party is later this month where there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on, right? Tell me about it.
Yes. So the actual big party that's happening for the art event is going to be July 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. You can also buy tickets for that on our website. If you'll click on the same link, you'll be able to buy some. The art event is kind of the culmination of all of the different pieces. So the thing with Incognito is all of our pieces are unsigned, meaning you don't know who the artist is. You may have an idea of some maybe local Memphis celebrities that are participating, but none of them are signed on the front, so you won't know. And then on July 28th, when we have the actual party, you'll have some cocktails, some small bites, able to walk around, look on the pieces, and then at 8 p.m. when the event actually finishes, that's when all of the artists will be revealed. So any artists that participate and come, a lot of times they dress incognito as well in their own fun costumes. We've had a lot of different fun dress up situations in the past. And we have them stand by their art pieces and they're able to have like the grand reveal when the clock starts at 8 p.m.
That's fantastic. I love it. What else can we talk about, Carly, with relations to this art and the party that's scheduled for later this month?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we were saying, Incognito is in partner with Artist Link. It's a group that we work with pretty often. Artist Link is actually most of these pieces, like we said, but we also get a lot of pieces from people participating in our art classes here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. So we have several art classes led by a few different artists, oil, acrylic, watercolor, and students that actually came and learned these techniques in our classes then we're able to apply them to art pieces and enter our show this year. So that's something else cool that you can do if you maybe want to get your hands on trying different art styles. and you've, maybe tried one in the past, but you want to try watercolor, or if you want to try and make some pieces like the ones you see behind us, that's a really cool opportunity for people is to come do our art classes.
What is the website again, Carly?
Absolutely. So you can either Google Memphis Botanic Garden, and it should be membg.org. And that way you can log on, see all of our different events going on. You can see all of our upcoming classes, anything that you could kind of want to try. And then if you also wanted to buy our tickets to Incognito or see the pieces, all of the pieces are on the website under the Incognito tab. And that way you can see maybe something catch your eye.
Absolutely. Okay, there's some nice, definitely some nice art behind you. Carly Zamora, we really appreciate your time and everything that you and all the good folks at the Memphis Botanic Garden do each and every day throughout the year. Thank you so much for coming on the Digital Desk. Good luck at the auction and the party later this month. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I have been looking forward to this interview for such a long time because one of the best contributors we have since the Digital Desk came online is joining us now, and she is the best food reporter in the business. We're talking about the one and only Jennifer Chandler back on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Yes, I'm blowing out my newsroom. I'm speaking louder because I'm just so happy, Jennifer, to have you back. How are you, first off?
I am doing wonderful. I have missed our segments that we've been doing, and I am so excited to be back on the Digital Desk as well. It's been a couple of months. I've had some transitions in my life. I have switched newspapers, and I am now writing for the Daily Memphian as their food and restaurant reporter. And I've been there since the beginning of the summer and loving being on this new news team.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, congratulations to you. We're super excited for you to be back with us on the Digital Desk, and you have a new crew with you. And, I loved, of course, we haven't had you on in a while, but I have been reading your articles, and I loved the article. I think I mentioned to you that you offered the ingredients and the recipe for the cream spinach at Buckley's. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to make it. But that's not what we're talking about right now.
Well, I just have to put a note about that one. It was very funny about that recipe. When restaurants make their recipes, they're these huge batches. And when I asked Jeff Farinelli for that recipe when they announced that they were closing, he said, I'll give it to you and I'll pare it down. Well, that recipe still calls for 6 pounds of frozen spinach. So it makes an awfully big batch. So you better love cream spinach, but you can freeze it. But that's one of the things too I'm excited about the Daily Memphian is we are adding back in recipes. And it's a former cookbook author that warms my heart. So I'm going to try to every week have a recipe that'll be posted on Saturday mornings. Either from a favorite cook or a favorite restaurant. So if you have a recipe you love, send me a note and I'll see if I can track it down for you.
Right. So 6 pounds of spinach. Guess what, kids? We're having spinach for dinner. I saw it and I loved it, though. So we're not talking about spinach, though. We are talking about the best handmade ice creams all across Memphis and the Mid-South. I know you have an article coming out later, and it's going to feature a whole bunch, but maybe we can talk about a couple right now.
Yes, for sure. So July, no surprise, is National Ice Cream Month. I mean, it's the heat of the summer. I can think of no better time to enjoy ice cream. So the whole month of July is National Ice Cream Month. But this coming Sunday, July 21st, is National Ice Cream Day. And so one of the things that I thought I would do is kind of give a list of all of the ice cream shops in Memphis that actually make their ice cream in-house. And what is so cool, I have 11 of them coming out on a list today. I have a weekly newsletter that comes out on Wednesday afternoons called Table Talk. And it comes directly in an email to subscribers, but it's also posted on the dailymemphian.com. So look for that every Wednesday. And that's going to be the topic for the one this week is 11 ice cream shops you can visit. And there are just so many and so many people doing good things. I'm going to kind of quickly run down the list, but I have to tell you what's so cool about them. People think ice cream is ice cream. Well, ice cream is not ice cream when it comes to Memphis. Just like everything else, we do everything different and better and unique and put our own spins on it. And each one of these ice cream shops is Memphian owned, family owned businesses, and they are putting their own unique spins on ice cream. So Andrew, as I go through this list, if you have a favorite one that you go or a favorite flavor, please chime in. So
Got it.
I'm going to start downtown and move out east. So the first one on my list is Zia Amato, which is something that opened this past spring. They opened their gelato shop, but they've actually been selling gelato for several years now. But Matteo Cervente is from Italy originally. And during the pandemic, he decided to start making gelato and launched a business where he was selling his gelato to restaurants and in grocery stores. And he has now opened his own gelateria downtown in the South Main Arts District. It's actually on the ground floor of the Central Station Hotel, kind of across the street from Ernestine and Hazel's, if you know where that is. But he's making authentic gelato. And one of the things he's doing cool, he has for ice cream sandwiches, he's partnered with 17 Berkshire, which is a bakery and coffee shop that's in Overton Square. And she makes fabulous macarons, which are those kind of, French cookies. And so he is making ice cream sandwiches with his gelato and her macaron. And they are so good. Definitely the pistachio one I tried was fabulous. So if you want a different treat, definitely stop by there. Then there's another one that I think a lot of people don't know about, but and they might overlook because it's kind of tucked away in the Pembroke building on South Main Street, on the, kind of on that pedestrian part of Main Street. And it's called Margie's 901 Homemade Ice Cream. And Velma Bobo is the proprietor there. There's a picture of her. You can see her. And her shop is really tiny and it's super cute. And she makes all of her own ice cream flavors. She started out, she had originally bought a, I think it was called Maggie Moo's. It was kind of a franchise and she was in the Peabody Place. And when Peabody Place closed, she decided to create her own ice cream shop. And that's what she did. She has tons of flavors that she makes in-house daily. And one of the things she just recently was telling me she's doing, she just has moved her ice cream production into the front of the shop so that people can actually see her making her ice cream. So they have traditional ice cream you get by the scoop. And they also are one of those places that does, I hate to say a chain, but kind of like Cold Stone Creamery where they can like do mix-ins and stuff and make their own concoctions. So that's one of the things that you can do there at Margie's 901. Moving in town a little bit, we're going to hop over to Crosstown Concourse, and there's Sweet Magnolia Gelato Company. And Hugh Balthrop is started his gelato company several years ago. He calls it chef-inspired, Southern-inspired. He has unique flavors like banana pudding, and I think it's called Delta Pecan for his kind of pecan flavor. And he started in Oxford, Mississippi, but he just recently moved his production facility this past spring to Memphis. But he has his products have been available in grocery stores for a long time, and they're really great. But he now also has a gelato shop that is in Crosstown Concourse. So you can get a scoop, and he sometimes puts some unique flavors that he's kind of experimenting with in that gelato shop. So that's a good place to go if you want to get something you may not find on the shelves. So keeping moving in toward town, we're going to hop over to Broad Avenue and go to Sugar Ghost. So Sugar Coast Ice Cream and Bubble Tea is this cute shop. And I will admit, I was doing some research for this article yesterday, and that is my scoop of ube ice cream that I enjoyed yesterday when I was in there. And you're going, what is ube ice cream? Ube is a Japanese purple sweet potato. Yep, you heard me right on that one. And she has made it into an ice cream that is kind of slightly nutty tasting, kind of tastes like pistachio. It is so good. Mary Claire White is the owner of Sugar Ghost, and she has Falling Into Place gift shop right next door. That was her original business. And then when the bay next door to her opened, she took over took over the space and opened Sugar Ghost. And so she makes unique flavors. I think she had a watermelon cilantro sorbet. She has an ooey gooey butter cake flavor that's in the cases right now. That's so good. And she just opened a shop in Germantown.
Yes. So
raise your hand.
Yes, I go to Sugar Ghost a lot, probably too much. And so my wife Tina, she's had the ube ice cream. She loves it. I've had something that, they are very unique. You're absolutely right. I had one during Valentine's Day because they like to do things around the holidays. It was chocolate-covered strawberry ice cream, and it tasted exactly like that. It was awesome.
That's a great flavor. And I will tell you, this is actually something personal, but my daughter, she is friends with my niece's, she's friends with my cousin's daughter. So sort of my, whatever that is, to make her my niece, if it's my cousin's daughter.
Something like that, yeah.
Not really, but whatever relation. Mary Claire White is very good friends with my cousin. And for their wedding, she did that flavor as as kind of like, the late night snack at the wedding. And it was in June,
Yes.
It was hot, and she handed those out, and that flavor, so good.
So good. Awesome. All right.
Okay. So we're going to keep moving. And Sweet Noshings, many know it's been in Overton Square for a very, very, very long time. And the family that owns it, I'm trying to think, maybe a year or two ago, opened a location in East Memphis. So they have always made their own homemade ice creams. But the ones, they have a selection at Overton Square, but the one that they've done in East Memphis is like humongous. They have so many flavors. I forgot to look up what it was. I think they have over 40 different flavors. But one of the things that Sweet Noshings does is they have an over 21 selection of flavors where they do alcohol infused ones. The ones you're looking at right now was one that was done with Guinness Beer Stout. And it had Guinness beer, that chocolate cake you can make with, people make with Guinness beer. It had that crumbled into it. So good. I think for National Ice Cream Day this Sunday, I think she told me that they are making a lychee martini ice cream or sorbet. I can't remember if it's an ice cream or sorbet for a Sunday. So that sounds very interesting for sure. There's also Kay's Pints and Scoops. Her creamer, she calls it a micro creamery, and it is she makes small batch of ice cream using, flavors. We can talk about strawberry. She has a great strawberry flavor. She's located in Whitehaven. If you ever have seen, you actually know her. She does bright pink pint containers, and she has her ice creams in stores across Memphis. But she does open the creamery on Saturdays for people to come in and buy pints and half pints from her. But she does special events every once in a while, and she's going to be open this Sunday afternoon for the National Ice Cream Day celebration, and they're going to be doing her ice creams by the scoop. So definitely go check out Kay's Pints and Scoops in Whitehaven. And then moving on to Summer Avenue, La Michoacana, which I always feel like I'm saying that wrong. It has 5 locations in Memphis, but the one on Summer Avenue, kind of somewhere between like Waring and Graham, is their largest one. And people really think about them for their paletas, for their Mexican popsicles, but their ice cream, they make all their ice creams in-house. And they're so yummy, and they have flavors that are, obviously they have normal flavors, but they also have flavors like pine nut. They have one that's called the Rocher, like those candies that have like the hazelnuts in it. They do a version of that. They have some mango. They have so many interesting flavors to choose from. And again, I forget, dozens are in the case every day. At least so I go to the one on Summer Avenue. And again, that's the largest, so they probably have the largest selection. But what I do is I go get an ice cream and then I grab some Pilates to take home and put in my freezer. Don't tell you when I do that, but it's a good trick. Speaking of popsicles, we're going to move over to Cordova and Dipstickle. So Dipstickle is kind of like over there kind of near Trinity Commons, and she does popsicles, but she makes them with gelato. She has them with sorbets and some kind of icy ones, but most of them are made with gelatos, and she does unique flavors. And so it's like gelato on a stick, and you can dip it in different kinds of chocolate, and then you can also put it in like cookies or nuts and kind of make your own fancy gelato popsicle creation. And it is so good. And it's a small little shop, and I don't think many people know about it, but it's really great. I follow her on Instagram, and she's always doing kind of different flavors and things like that. So every time I'm in Cordova, I try to stop by there. And then I've got one more in Collierville that I'm going to talk about, kind of out east in that direction, which is Levy Creamery. And it is over there kind of by, I think it's Houston Levy, and obviously because of the levee, and oh my gosh, I'm drawing
Wolf River.
Like on the street.
Wolf River Boulevard.
Wolf River, thank you. So they have fun flavors. This is the Fruit Loop flavor that they do. That's one of their crazy flavors. It's so good. It tastes just like, cereal milk and Fruit Loops. So if you remember that from your childhood, you're going to love that. They have their Oreos, their kind of cookies and cream Oreo flavor is called Mustang Madness after Houston High School. And but it is like cookies and cream on steroids. It has like so many more cookies in it than you would get at any store-bought cookies and cream ice cream. It is so good. And they make all their ice creams in-house. So we're going to have two more stops on my list. Hop over to DeSoto County to Hernando, and Area 51 is a great ice cream shop. They used to have one in Memphis, and I hate that they don't anymore because Hernando is not really on my driving path, because if it was, I'd be there all the time. But she has really great flavors, and they really do. It's family owned, and they do a lot of seasonal things. And their blackberry goat cheese flavor has won like national awards, and it comes out in the summer during blackberry season. So watch their social media when it comes out. It is worth driving down there, and just believe me, you're going goat cheese and an ice cream. It's tart. It is paired with the blackberries. It is so good. It's worth the drive down there. And then the last one is one that's been around for forever. Velvet Cream. It's nicknamed the Dip. It's been around forever. And I don't know if people realize that they do make all 30, I think it's 34 flavors by scratch. And then they do all, sundaes and all these different concoctions. I think I once read that it was like well over 100 different ice cream things you could get off the menu there, which is kind of fun. That's kind of like going old school when you go to the Velvet Cream, or the Dip, as it's called in Hernando. So that is my roundup. There's more about all of these different places. Will be up on the dailymemphian.com. Look under the Table Talk tab, because that's where my weekly newsletter is. And it also kind of tells you about the news going on that you may have missed this past week in the restaurant industry.
Fantastic. Jennifer Chandler, it's been far too long. So glad you're back with us, back in the fold, the Action News 5 family. Great to have you back. Thank you so much. Can't wait to eat some ice cream. You scream, we all scream for ice cream. Jennifer, thanks.
For sure.
All right, welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have you heard about AmeriCorps' National Civilian Community Corps? It is a partnership between the AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps and Forest Corps, or the United States Forest Service. So Forest Corps is a partnership between AmeriCorps and the U.S. Forest Service. They protect public lands. It's for young people passionate about protecting those lands, and it really helps develop leadership skills, among other things, and strengthen communities. I'm joined right now by Ken Goodson. He's the director of AmeriCorps' National Civilian Community Corps, joining us on the digital desk. Ken, good morning to you. Tell us more about this new program.
Andrew, good morning. Thanks a lot for having me on. AmeriCorps' National Civilian Community Corps, or NCCC, is a team-based service program for young adults ages 18 to 26. We started as a demonstration project at the Department of Defense, have been with AmeriCorps for about 30 years now, helping to strengthen leadership skills and make a positive impact in communities across the nation. We've recently entered, as you mentioned, a new partnership with the U.S. Forest Service to help bring young adults into service on public lands. That is to address the wildfire crisis strategy of the Forest Service, as well as their reforestation strategy. Brand new program, just launched and became official as of last week.
All right, last week. Okay, so tell me about, first off, Forest Corps and what this program aims to do. How many young adults are a part of it, and where are they?
Okay, great. So the Forest Corps program, again, advancing two major strategies for the U.S. Forest Service. On the wildfire crisis strategy front, members will be involved in work such as prescribed burns, clearing brush, helping to reduce the risk of wildfires. And on the reforestation side, they'll be doing work like tree or seed collection and helping to monitor forest health. The program started with 80 members, and that was launched last week in California, where AmeriCorps NCCC has our Pacific Region campus. The initial set of 10 teams all actually depart today, Andrew, to begin their service commitment. Those service commitments are primarily in the American West, which is where the greatest wildfire risk is. But we have members serving in the program from all across the United States.
Okay, and their service tenure is it a year? Is it less than that?
Yeah, so AmeriCorps NCCC Forest Corps members do a 10-month commitment, and then the team leaders, the young adults who run the teams, make an 11-month commitment.
And tell me about the leadership skills and other aspects of this program that these people who are involved in this program get out of it.
Yeah, and I think those are not unique to the Forest Corps part of AmeriCorps NCCC, but in general for AmeriCorps NCCC, it is a team-based program. So you have young adults from all different walks of life looking to go and serve in communities that have requested their support and assistance. And the leadership skills development is really through the daily hands-on service work, as well as some classroom training and support that's provided by AmeriCorps NCCC. That is coupled with the tangible technical skills that our project partners provide. So for Forest Corps members specifically, Andrew, that's things like chainsaw certifications or a red card wildland firefighter certification. So you take those soft skills, leadership skills, and then those tangible technical skills. And at the end of the service term, you have a really qualified young adult able to hit the job market and take the next step in their career.
So we have thousands of people, Ken, that watch us each and every morning here on the digital desk. This probably is the first time they're hearing about something like this. Is there an opportunity for people to join throughout the year, or is it only this time of year? What?
Yeah, throughout the year, Andrew, there's opportunities for people to get more information about AmeriCorps NCCC, all of our different service programs, and particularly for the Forest Corps program. And your viewers can go to AmeriCorps.gov/Forest Corps. That would be a great place to start. And my colleagues and I certainly stand ready to answer any questions that may come up.
All right, Ken Goodson, Director of AmeriCorps NCCC. We appreciate you on the digital desk. Congratulations on the new set of recruits that have gone through and are about to embark on quite a journey the next 10 and 11 months. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, another live look from our High Five camera here from Midtown Memphis. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it's kind of nasty out. 74 degrees at 9:07. Let's talk about your forecast in 60 seconds.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area. As you head down towards central Mississippi, some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. But even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight, after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances or higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame, as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us. Is going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us, and with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperature's running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days, though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have a local author. Her name is Maggie Jamerson. She is from Oakland, Tennessee, and she has a book out that really kind of drew inspiration from her years in the classroom as being a teacher to create a picture book that's aimed at helping students, teachers, and parents improve reading skills. It's called Oliver's Journey. She's joining us right now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Maggie, good morning to you. Tell me about this latest book. It's Oliver's Journey, right?
Well, it's called Only Oliver.
Ah, okay. Well, tell me more.
So it is about a little boy who is nervous about his first day of school. And he's also nervous about reading because he doesn't know how to read. So this book goes along his journey of learning how to read. And what he finds out is that he's not the only one who doesn't know how to read.
Gotcha. And so you have created several books, right? I mean, this is something that has come out of your teaching career. Tell me more about your background.
Well, so this is actually my first book release. I would love to make a series, Remarkable Readers. The phonics has 44 sounds. I am not saying I'm going to do 44 books. However, I would like to continue working and focusing on sounds with students in the book. So I wanted to create a classroom setting in the story because I feel like there are a lot of short O books, octopus, otter. And what I wanted to show were children that were actually learning how to read. So the blending of the sounds does not come natural. And that was what I wanted to make sure was in the book. So there are phonics letters, phonics sounds for the parents to learn how to pronounce those for the child to be able to read. And if reading is taught in a structured and explicit way, then children can learn how to read as young as 3. And if they have learning disabilities, this is the way that they need to be taught, structured and explicit learning.
Tell me a little bit more about your background. You're talking to us right now from Oakland, Tennessee, here in the Mid-South. How long are you a teacher? Are you still teaching right now? And what grades have you taught?
Right. Okay, so I've been in the Memphis area for 25 years. I taught in the classroom for 16 years. I mostly taught 1st, 3rd, and 5th grade. Within those 3 grades, I mostly taught 1st grade. So teaching children how to read is my gift. And I've been doing that for 20 plus years. In June of 2021, I decided to start my own business called Remarkable Readers. I hire other licensed teachers, and we guarantee that students will improve in reading or math by 4 to 6 months in 8 weeks. We have helped over 350 kids, and 100% of those kids have reached our guarantee goal or have exceeded our guarantee.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations to you, and congratulations on your new book, Only Oliver. Where can people get it?
So it is available today. So today you can get it on Amazon, which is Prime Day as well. And I will be at Novel Saturday, and Novel will have it. Saturday, I will be doing their story time. Then the following Saturday, I am going to be a speaker at Homeschool Yo Kids at the Benjamin Hooks Library, and I will also have some there. I would love for people to stop by. I am signing books, and if you get yours in the mail and want to come by and see me, that would be great. So yeah, there's a couple of things going on where I've gone around to different story times and different activities to share my book and read the story. And I've had quite a few pre-orders. So all of my pre-orders should have received theirs now. And oh, I just remembered I will be at the Arlington Library Tuesday, July 23rd for their storytime reading, and I'll have books there too.
All right, Maggie Jamerson, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on all your success, both inside and outside the classroom. We appreciate it. We are talking with someone within the Methodist Transplant Institute who donated one of her kidneys to a stranger about 7 years ago. I'm joined now by Joanne Morris. She is someone who did this within the transplant unit. She's a dietitian at Methodist. Joanne, good morning. I appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. Tell me about your journey. How did we get to this point?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me and letting me share a little bit about my story in organ donation. So, I've been a dietitian at Methodist here for 11 years, and it was never on my bucket list or something to do to give away a kidney to a stranger. But working with patients day in and day out in our transplant clinic, I just felt like I was better educated and aware about the critical need of needing more living donors, and then also seeing the joy of people receiving their kidneys. And I just felt called by God, this is something that I needed to do.
That is amazing, and it's an incredible selfless act. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. And so was it just working day in and day out at the Transplant Institute where you just felt called to give your kidney to a stranger?
Yes, so I mean, definitely pulls on the heartstrings to see people suffering, because kidney disease is something that affects your quality of life day in and day out. And not all conditions and diseases have treatments like kidney disease does. I mean, there is kidney transplant, so that definitely improves somebody's quality of life. I was very fortunate that I did not have a direct family member or friend who needed my kidney, but I have learned kidneys do not care where they go, and I didn't care either. And it was just important to me that somebody improve their life and get off of dialysis.
Wow. Okay. So tell us about the recovery process, because I think a lot of people would be very intimidated with the idea of being healthy and then deciding to give a kidney to someone who they don't know, and that whole process. What's the recovery, and what was the recovery like for you?
Right. So my surgery and recovery went very much textbook, like the team told me it would. They told me it would take 4 to 6 weeks to completely recover, and it did. I was in the hospital 3 days, went home to my family who helped take care of me. And other than, of course, the incisional pain, I had no other major complications, and that was pretty much gone by 2 weeks. So other than just taking a short pause on my life for about 6 weeks, it didn't negatively impact my life at all.
That's incredible, Joan. Tell me a little bit more about how and if your quality of life has changed.
Right. So before donating, I was working active, a mother, and I was able to continue doing those things. I came back to work here at the transplant clinic 5 weeks after my donation, and then we wanted to extend our family, which we were able to do, and I gave birth to a little beautiful girl about a year after I donated. I love to hike the national parks, and I go hiking and working and enjoy all my same passions, so it did not have any negative impacts on my quality of life whatsoever.
And there are a lot of people that are on the list right now looking for a kidney donor, right? Can you talk a little bit about that and how people are on dialysis and they need a donor right away?
Right. So living donation is the best option. It gives you so many more years of quality of life, 15 to 25 years from a living donor kidney, which is amazing to think that you can give somebody an extra 25 years of those big milestones and small moments with their families. Dialysis, of course, is a great way to maintain your life till a transplant, but it's not optimal quality of life. And so that's where living donors and deceased donors can come in to kind of bridge the gap.
What do you wish everyone knew about organ donation? Maybe some misconceptions out there.
Right. So some misconceptions is you don't have to, know you're a recipient. Kidneys do not care where they go. Number 2, you don't have to be in perfect health. I've definitely, working with the transplant team for the last 11 years, we take donor safety as a top priority, and I fully trusted them with my own donation evaluation that they would have never pushed me through if I wasn't a great candidate. So you don't have to be in perfect health. Don't rule yourself out. You also don't have to be a remarkable or completely inspirational person. You can just be a regular person like me to do this. And it's been one of the most joyful things I've ever done, and I don't ever have any regrets with my donation.
You said you're a mother, and how many kids do you have, if you don't mind me asking? And you mentioned that you had a kid after you gave your kidney, right?
I did. So when I donated, I had a 2-year-old beautiful boy who is going to be 10 this summer. And then it was definitely important to me and my husband that we wanted to still extend our family after I donated. So for donor safety, most transplant teams ask mothers consider waiting 6 months to a year after donating to have another child. And then I gave birth to my beautiful little girl about a year after I donated.
Wow. Okay. Is there a place where someone can go online and just kind of learn more about, you know, not just your story, just the whole process?
Correct. So you, of course, can learn at our Methodist Hospital University website. And then you can go to the bigaskbiggive.com or the National Kidney Foundation. There's so many good quality resources that patients can learn about living and deceased donation. So especially if you're feeling called to do that, educate yourself. Don't rule yourself out. You can fill out a questionnaire online, and then a nurse coordinator will call you to ask you more questions.
Anything else you want to say, Joan? You are quite the inspiration this morning.
Well, this wasn't my life plan to do this. I'm very grateful I was able to do it. You know, there's such a high need of people to be living donors and deceased donors, and it's not as overwhelming as sometimes the misconception is. It's had no negative impacts on my life, and it's a beautiful thing just to give to really help somebody. So especially if you enjoy giving, it's a beautiful, valuable thing to do to help your community.
Joan Morris, we appreciate you, dietitian at the Methodist Transplant Institute, also donated your kidney to a total stranger there. I appreciate you telling us this story, and thank you for really kind of shedding a light on not just your story, but the whole process of donating a kidney, being perfectly healthy before and after. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area as you head down towards central Mississippi. Some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, but even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances are higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, car, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame, as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us is going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperatures running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days. Though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week, staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
About the safest vehicles for this summer. Perhaps you have a teen that's getting ready to drive or is driving right now. You want the very best, safest car for them. And how do you find it? Well, let's bring in someone that can maybe give us some pointers with that. I'm joined now by Brian Moody, Executive Director of Kelley Blue Book. Brian, appreciate you joining us on the digital desk. I was actually on your site last night looking up the value of my car. It's a great site. I love it. But let's focus on this summer and some of the safest vehicles out there for the family and for the teens. What's kind of the number one thing we should all be looking for when we want that safe car?
Well, the first thing is when you're looking for a car for a kid or a teen, maybe even a first-time driver, the kind of car they want might not be the best car for them. So you have to kind of compromise a little bit. You don't want high-performance cars, and you don't want something that sits high off the ground. There are some exceptions, of course. Some kids have grown up in a rural environment. They've driven tractors and lots of stuff. They can handle all that. But for the average kid, high off the ground is a no-no. Big, high horsepower cars, that's also a no-no. And by the way, those things can affect your insurance rate. What you want is a good, safe car that's reasonably reliable, that has certain features from the factory. So you want airbags, of course. You want side head curtain airbags that protects your head in case of a side collision. You want traction control. and you want stability control. You can opt for a parking camera, but that's not necessary because you can always add that later. So don't get caught up in finding a car that has a parking camera from the factory. You can always add that to a car later, and it's not that much money.
Do you think a car would be the best option for some of those teens out there, or do you think maybe a small SUV? What do you think?
A small SUV could be okay if it's relatively low to the ground, say something like a Honda CR-V, something like that. Cars are best. What's interesting is a lot of kids have been telling me they prefer cars because being high off the ground makes it difficult for them to judge their surroundings. And a lot of kids have also been saying, well, I don't want an SUV. That's what my parents drove. That kind of thing happens from generation to generation. Think about what we didn't want. We didn't want station wagons. So cars are a good place to start. Cars, sedans especially, are also affordable because they're not in super high demand. All those safety features I just mentioned, all of those features, you can find that on a car for less than $10,000.
Good deal. That's a good piece of advice. What about the safest vehicles for families out there? Summer road trips underway here. The best and safest car for that family?
Yeah, if you look at the government crash test ratings, which is the NHTSA.gov, that's the place where they publish their crash test results. You want a car that's a 4 or 5 stars at least, and then there'll be little notes in there. Sometimes they test a car that has optional equipment, so you want to look for that if you're buying a new car. Typically, the brands that perform quite well are brands like Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis. Toyota does quite well. Honda and Acura do quite well. Look for those cars, and look for model by model, though. Look for a high crash test score. If you really want to get extra information, you can go to a website that's iihs.org, and they have a little bit different of a safety rating system, but they still give you crash test ratings, and they rate everything from the strength of the headlights to the safety equipment, how the airbags work, all that kind of stuff.
Are there maybe some common mistakes out there that some families make, just real easy mistakes to avoid?
Yeah, one of them is assuming that, any old car will do. And, well, they're going to have to earn the money to save up, and they're going to get a $1,500 car. That's not necessarily the case anymore. That used to be fine, because if you think about safety technology from, say, the 60s to the 90s, it didn't change that much. Maybe there was some better equipment, better seatbelts, but from the 2000s to now, in those 20 years, a lot of things have changed. Anti-lock brakes is one. Airbags is another. And the other thing is, always go on to the government website, the same thing that I just mentioned, which is nhtsa.org or .gov, and look to see if your car that you're considering buying has any open recalls. Of course, everyone's talked about the Takata airbag story. There's lots of cars out there that have been unrepaired, and that's very dangerous. If you have one that's been repaired, it's going to be okay, but make sure before you buy a car there are no open recalls, and especially with the airbags. So people oftentimes look after they have the car. Well, there's a reason why it wasn't addressed to begin with. I wouldn't want to find that out when I'm the person who's the owner of the car. I would do all that work beforehand, and that would help me inform me about which car I'm going to buy.
This has been very informative, Brian. I appreciate you dropping some of this knowledge here with us on the Digital Desk.
Sure.
I leave the last question open to you. Anything else you feels important to the thousands of people that are watching us right now that you haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I think one thing that's worth considering is just because you don't have a lot of money to spend doesn't mean that you can't find a safe car. I purchased a car recently for one of my kids, and it had all the features I just said, and it was $6,000. Now, it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't a hot rod or a sports car, but it had the basic safety features. And don't be worried about having to get a new car. Of course, the newer car you get, the more standard equipment it's going to have. But you can go back a few years, 2008, 2009, 2006, and find a car that has all the safety features that I just mentioned for a reasonable price and with reasonable miles too.
All right, Brian Moody, Kelly Blue Book Executive Director. Appreciate you coming on the digital desk.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so very much. Very optimistic too. I mean, $6,000 for a great, safe car for your teen. Fantastic news, especially in light of what we've seen with used car prices over the last several years. That gives us all hope who have kids driving, among other things. Brian, thanks. Metastatic breast cancer, also known as stage 4 breast cancer, is a breast cancer that spreads from the breast to other areas of the body. And at this time, it is not considered a curable disease, but it is possible to maintain a good quality of life while on treatments. And some patients have no evidence of a disease. They can be followed with scans and other tests. A really nice update to stage 4 breast cancer. The No One Missed campaign raises awareness for biomarker testing as a critical part of metastatic cancer diagnosis and treatment plan. And I want to bring in two ladies who can help explain a little bit more about all this. I'm joined right now on the digital desk by Jean Sachs, CEO of Living Beyond Breast Cancer, and Betty Sanchez, MBC Patient Advocates. Ladies, good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit first about biomarker testing and why all metastatic cancer patients need to talk to their doctors about it. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having us. Yeah, it's very important that if you've been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, that you have a conversation with your medical oncologist about biomarker testing. Find out, have you had it? If not, why not? And when might you have it along your treatment trajectory? The reason it's so important is biomarker testing looks closely at the actual cancer, either via a tissue biopsy or a blood sample, and can give really important information about what is making the cancer grow. And that may lead to a new personalized treatment that will be more effective and less toxic. And you wouldn't have known about that unless you actually had the biomarker test.
Betty, can you talk a little bit about what patients should ask their doctors about biomarker testing to find treatment options?
Well, yeah, I mean, you want to know what type of cancer you have, and that's going to determine the kind of treatment you have. Biomarker testing is so critically important because that's going to tell you not only the type of cancer you have, but what kind of treatments might be out there that are targeting that cancer type. And that's what the biomarker testing is doing. And so you need to ask your doctor about biomarker testing because that's going to determine what your treatment plan will be.
Okay, and Jean, over back to you. I was wondering, the No One Missed campaign, can you explain what that is and how it's expanding metastatic breast cancer patients?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The No One Missed campaign is focused on patients who've been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. And the whole goal is to make sure there's conversations with your doctor about biomarker testing, because this is relatively new, and certainly in the breast cancer space, it's relatively new. And we have to remember that breast cancer is not one disease, it's many diseases, and that means there are many different ways to treat it. And if we do find cures, there won't just be one cure. There'll be different cures depending on the kind of cancer you have. So it's becoming more and more personalized. And we know right now that not all metastatic patients are given the option for biomarker testing. So we need to make sure they ask. And we also know that it's not always covered by your insurance. It is usually covered, but not always. So you want to ask that question too. But again, everybody deserves the best treatment out there. And right now, for metastatic breast cancer patients, biomarker testing is one of the keys, not the only key, but it is an important key. And you want to make sure you're having a conversation about it.
Yep.
Okay, so ladies, I'll leave it open to both of you, Betty and Jean. Anything else you want to mention? We have thousands of people who watch us each and every morning here on the Digital Desk. Anything else you want to mention that we haven't touched on you feel is important to them?
I mean, I'll just say that, science is moving quickly, and in breast cancer, that is very true. So if you are diagnosed, it's so important to be informed. Have a doctor that really listens to you and makes time to answer your questions. The No One Missed website has a lot of information. Living Beyond Breast Cancer has lots of information, both for metastatic and early stage, but we can't encourage you enough to be informed, get information, just to make sure you get the best care, because science is changing and it's changing for the better.
Yep. And it's hard to self-advocate. I mean, it's difficult. It's not an easy process. I have a hard time with it, and I've been doing this for 8 years, living with metastatic breast cancer, but it's so critically important for your survival. So you have to learn how to open up your voice and have your doctor listen to you, and it's going to get better.
Where can we go for more information about what we discussed this morning?
Yeah, for the No One Missed campaign, you can go to NoOneMissed/breast cancer. And for more information on Living Beyond Breast Cancer, you can go to lbbc.org.
Okay, well, ladies, Jean Sachs, Betty Sanchez, we appreciate you coming on the Digital Desk this morning. Thank you so much for all the info. I know it's very beneficial to our audience. We appreciate it. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I'm looking forward to this next interview because I found it so timely with what we are dealing with now, with a ramp up to a big contentious presidential election in November. Some of the rhetoric is very much over the top. It's very heated. It's very partisan. And oftentimes there are just situations where people get very upset at the other side. They get very frustrated. They get very triggered, and they want to cancel and among other things, or sometimes even worse. Well, there are ways to disagree without disrespect. There are ways to do things that are not so volatile, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. There, in fact, is a book that is titled Disagree Without Disrespect: How to Respectfully Debate Those Who Think, Believe, and Vote Differently from You. The author of that book is joining me now, Philip Blackett. He is the author joining us on the Digital Desk. Philip, good to have you on the Digital Desk. So tell me some of the reasons behind writing a book like this.
Well, good morning, Andrew. Thankful to be here with you. And I think to answer your question, a lot of times when we're going through our most important relationships, we're going to come across people that we don't agree with on everything, right? You think about family, friends, people you work as far as colleagues are concerned, people in your neighborhood. And so essentially what came off was, for me, what started as a 4th of July family encounter where my sister and I were talking about an issue that we were on opposite sides of the spectrum on. My mother jumps in to paraphrase, says, we're not going to get involved with this debate here because I'm not trying to see fireworks before the actual fireworks later on tonight. Where at that moment, while I appreciate her intent to preserve the peace between my sister and I, the impact of it was essentially a lost opportunity because my sister and I don't see each other often. And I think in a world of social media, text messages, smartphones, some conversations are better to be had in person, face to face, than others. But the fear of having a disagreement, though, has a lot of people, myself and my family included, not even broaching that subject. So what came off to my mind was, if that was the case for me, and that's not even talking about politics, money, or religion, but just any distance or difference of opinion on any issue that could run the risk of you getting cursed out on social media, the cold shoulder from family members, or even unfollowed or canceled or unfriended, what can we come up with a framework that's simple to apply, that anybody can apply in their own relationships? And that's what came off this 5-step framework I did in my book, Disagree Without Disrespect: How to Respectfully Debate with Those Who Think, Believe, and Vote Differently from You.
I love it. And, given the course of where we are, not only the political climate, which is so heated right now, but also just, everyday things, whether it's sports, whether it's, how to raise your child, what have you. People get very upset when others just don't disagree. And I'm from a generation where, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to be respectful and disagree. So I appreciate your book taking us back to those times. You have in that book a 5-step framework for practical applications. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So I think when you think about it, there's 5 steps to go about this. The first step is we should separate the idea or belief from the identity of the believer. The reason why that's important, Andrew, is the thought of, depending on the issue at hand, the person you talk to, that issue you talk about, that person may be so intertwined with what that is that it becomes essentially who he or she is. And so to criticize that idea comes off as criticizing that person or hating that person, which is very easy for them to get defensive, raise their wall up, be more aggressive towards you, and maybe even name call, where now the debate is no longer a debate, it's now gotten personal. Step number 2.
I was gonna let me jump in for a second. So how do you bring down the temperature of that? If someone says, well, I disagree with this, and the person that you're disagreeing with says, hey, that's who I am, how do you bring down the temperature of that?
So we have to acknowledge that, there's a lot of ideas that we are very tied to that mean a lot to us. And that's not a bad thing. What is important, though, is being able to underscore that we're talking about the idea at hand. And this gets into step 2, I would say, where 2 things can be true. I can disagree with your idea, Andrew, and I can still respect and love you as my friend. So something that I was taught in church when I was growing up in Memphis was hate the sin, love the sinner. So it could be a place where I can disagree with an idea, but be very clear to the person that my love for you is not contingent on whether or not we agree. We can still talk to one another, have fun, work together, even if we disagree. Because I would think to myself, there's a lot of relationships, especially marriages out there, that have gone the distance 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the line. And those people didn't agree on everything, but yet they're still together. So what can we learn from that and apply to our relationships with people that we aren't married to?
So you grew up in Memphis, huh?
I grew up in Memphis. I was raised by my mother and my grandparents. We used to watch Action News 5 with my grandparents every night at 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock if my grandmother would let me. So this is definitely a personal thing to be able to share this with you.
Fantastic. Okay, good stuff. Appreciate that. So take me through. So we got we got that step. What's the next one?
So step number 3, when you set the groundwork, the stage where we can actually have a talk on the actual issue at hand, we're not getting personal, we're not going to demean anybody. Let's discuss and debate the idea at hand based on its merits. What do I mean by that? We're talking about including facts, logic, research, reviews, performance, results. Like try to make this as objective of a comparison or debate as possible. What we don't want to get involved with, Andrew, is name calling. Because once you get involved with calling people outside of their given name, it's no longer a debate. It's now gotten personal and borderline ugly. We don't want to go into that sort of realm, but we want to keep it on a apples to apples comparison of the issue at hand.
I love that. I know we have 3 more points. We're running out of time, so I'll let you get to those 3 points.
Yep. So there's actually 2 last points. So basically, at the end of the debate, let's do what we did when we were, playing sports as a young person. At the end of the game, win or lose, what did we do? We shook hands and said, "Good game." Good sportsmanship was appreciated back then when we were playing sports as a young person. Good sportsmanship is appreciated now when we're adults having these type of debates, because no one likes a sore winner, no one likes a sore loser. But more importantly, step number 5, appreciate the person afterwards. Keep the door open for continued conversation, because hopefully the relationship between you two is more important than who's right or who's wrong.
It sounds like common sense. I mean, it sounds great. And it's a breath of fresh air to hear you, Philip, talk about that. And I really hope that this book, just resonates with so many people out there. Of course, we have thousands of people watching us here in the Memphis and Mid-South area. Where can people pick up your book? And are you going to be around town anytime to do some signings?
So I would say the best place to find it is on Amazon. So you can look up the book titled Disagree Without Disrespect, How to Respectfully Debate with Those Who Think, Believe, and Vote Differently from You. Or you can look it up by my name, Philip Blackett, PhilipBlackett. And I still have family in Memphis. Don't have plans in the near future, but would like to go sometime soon to be able to visit. But yeah, Amazon's the best place to go to find my books, or to go on my website, philipblackett.com.
Before I let you go, Philip, was there anything that surprised you putting this book together?
I think the timing, because, when I was growing up in Memphis politics, there's always disagreement. I think what's surprising now is that with social media, with the news cycle the way it is now compared to 30 years ago, disagreements are much more volatile and they're much more personal. And so I think for me, the timing of the book, where it primarily was supposed to help me, I realized was just a greater need for a lot of people beyond just myself.
He is Philip Blackett, and he has written a new book that everybody should at least check out and read a little bit. Disagree Without Disrespect: How to Respectfully Debate Those Who Think, Believe, and Vote Differently from You. Really appreciate you coming on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Good luck, congratulations as you talk to others about that 5-step way, that 5-step framework for practical solutions, so that we really respect everyone, even though we disagree. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Opening a digital door to your doctor's office. Imagine using technology to provide patients with that digital key to open your physician's door on their schedule and giving you yourself more control of your healthcare needs and, most importantly, access to your doctor. Let's talk more about this issue right now with Dr. Robert Murray, Chief Medical Officer of NextGen Healthcare, joining us on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Dr. Murray, good morning to you. So tell us a little bit more about this concept. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. So the idea is exactly what you laid out. It's using technology, and certain doctors' offices can do this now, and we encourage more to offer it. But patients using technology to get that access. They don't have to call the patient, call the practice and be on hold or wait 3 weeks for an appointment. They can schedule an online appointment, right now. They can message the doctor either before or after a visit. If they have a question, they can get results and pay bills and request prescription renewals. All of these technologies are available now at certain doctors' offices, and they can help lower the barriers, lower the hassle factor in people getting the care that they need.
We have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning, Dr. Murray, on the digital desk, and I have a feeling that many of them are saying 3 words: tell me more.
Sure. I mean, and I bet if they talk to their friends, some of their colleagues and friends, may have this kind of access. It might be a patient portal, or it might be a place on the practice's website where they can schedule that appointment and see what appointments are available. It might be the ability to securely text message back and forth between the practice and the provider. But these kinds of tools and technologies are certainly out there. We at NextGen Healthcare, make them available to practices across the country. And the practices that make good use of those are able to engage their patients better. And then what we're noticing, and we have, surveys and statistics to show it, but patients are delaying care. They're already spending an average of 8 hours a month on healthcare for them and their family, just orchestrating it all. But even with that, it's inefficient and they don't get everything they need, and they're delaying, seeing the doctor or getting that preventive service that they want. And so it's our goal, and we hope that folks take us up on it, to lower that barrier, to make it easier for the patients to connect with those practices and get those cares and answers that they need to take better care of themselves.
So how do we make this a reality? Like, if people are watching right now, what are some of those first steps they need to do in order to make this happen?
Sure. I think from the patient side, it's really to be on the lookout for the practices that have these tools, and also to learn how to use them. I mean, some people don't love technology. They're maybe a little afraid of it, which is okay. But if your practice does offer this, make an effort to try to use it, or to have the practice help you use it, because delaying care because the doctor doesn't have an appointment for a month, but you have a question that you need an answer to in the next few days, that just doesn't make any sense, right? You would have a better health if you used those tools, or you saw a doctor who offered those tools to get that out there. And so from my standpoint, I am a practicing family physician. We like it when patients reach out to us with questions, before the visits, after the visits. That when I feel like, if we're going to change their medicine or something, that I'm confident that they know how to reach back out to me if maybe that's not going so well, or they have questions about something that they're experiencing. So it's really good for both patients and doctors to have easier communication and have digital tools that can help connect us both better.
Should there be perhaps, Dr. Murray, maybe a conversation when a patient is perhaps looking at prospective doctor's offices to call and ask about this kind of idea where you can, essentially use this kind of technology to help them get, healthcare questions answered, scheduling, that sort of thing at their fingertips. I mean, is that where someone should start?
Well, I would encourage them to try to get the answers to those questions. I mean, a lot of people, they're looking for a new doctor. They talk to their friends and family, you know, which is great. You know, who do they like? But, you know, ask their friends and family, well, does your doctor's office do this or that? And then they could call the practice, but I think you can see a lot of this from a lot of practices' websites. So, you know, you get a recommendation on a new doctor from a friend, go to that doctor's website and look, could I make an online appointment? Is it clear? Does it look like they have a portal? Does it look like I could, you know, ask them questions or get renewals? Just, you know, is this practice making use of technology so that it's easier for me as a patient to interact with it? You know, it values my time, you know, as well as the practice's times. And for a lot of practices, that's pretty clear on their website. And then, you know, give it a try, schedule an appointment. And if you liked it, then that's great. If you don't like it, it's okay to look for another doctor at that practice or even another practice entirely that maybe makes better use of technology, you know, to value your time and to encourage that communication from you as a patient.
What else can we tell our audience, Doctor? I mean, this sounds like great, useful ideas.
Yeah, I think the other thing is to look for ways to use the technology even, you know, during the visits, right? So I think that the most advanced practices these days, you can, you know, do a lot of the paperwork that you have to do before a doctor's visit. You can do that online ahead of time. And even in the exam room, as I said, I'm a practicing family physician. So I'm actually using artificial intelligence securely, privately. But it helps just listen to the conversation that I have with the patient. I don't even have to look at the computer or touch it. And then it turns that into the start of my note. So it's like an AI note taker for my visit. It's called ambient listening. So there's all kinds of exciting ways that technology can help connect and you know, promote engagement and communication between providers and their patients, and that leads to better care. More engagement, more questions answered, more ability to communicate is better care.
All right, Dr. Robert Murray, we appreciate you and this conversation very much, enhancing patients and empowering them to get the very best health care possible at their fingertips. We appreciate it, Dr. Murray. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, another live look from our High Five camera downtown Memphis on a Tuesday. Let's talk more about your forecast with meteorologist Patrick Ellis in 1 minute.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area. As you head down towards central Mississippi, some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. But even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first solar futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances are higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us is going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperatures running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days. Though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week, staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I have a couple of stories here that I've printed off from our man downtown at Memphis City Hall. I'm joined right now on the Action News 5 Digital Desk by Sam Hardiman, Daily Memphian, City Beat writer and reporter there. Sam, always good to see you. How was your weekend? Good?
It was good. Thank you, Andrew. How was yours?
Oh, yeah, it was great. I played a bunch of pickleball. I don't know if you're a fan, but I've been playing it, and I see what the hype is. It's so much fun out there, and I highly recommend it.
I'm not a pickleball guy. I think I'm like well documented in my anti-pickleball takes, but I'm very happy for your happiness.
Yes, yes. Well, it gets my wife and I out and about. She isn't a golfer, or else I'd go play golf with her. So, but she likes pickleball, and so that's what we do. But I had a chance to read some of the stories that you've been working on, and I want to get to them right now. There's one that really has piqued my interest here, where Mayor Paul Young has hired a New York Police Department consultant, or rather a New York Police Department official, as a public safety consultant. And it sounds like this person has done this in other cities. And I'm curious, one, what do we know about this person, and how effective are they?
Yeah, so first, Mayor Young hired Fausto Pichardo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is the former chief of patrol for the New York City Police Department, and he resigned from that role in 2020. And since then, he's been a consultant. He notably recently worked for a good length of time with the New Orleans Police Department, where he was essentially the consulting chief of operations. And that was lengthy. They were facing many of the same problems in New Orleans that the city of Memphis is facing here, which is a dwindling head count. They're under a consent decree. The New Orleans Police Department is under a U.S. Department of Justice consent decree. The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the city of Memphis for civil rights violations, and a consent decree is probable in a lot of ways. In terms of his effectiveness, I think, and I've said this before, Andrew, I think it's really difficult to judge how a police department performs and really how an individual consultant performs. We don't have complete visibility into what people do and what is implemented and what isn't implemented, but it's certainly a really fair question.
How was he? Do we know much about his tenure in New Orleans and how successful he was for the law enforcement down there?
We know that he had a very influential role. He had a lot of access, and he had a lot of ability to, I think, recommend things. I don't know if he had the ability to make changes. I haven't read, and I would have to really see his contract and his scope of work down there to understand that. He gave an interview to, I think it's WDSU. I don't know what station that is down there. And we referenced that in my story, which you can find on dailymemphian.com. One of the things he noted, which I thought was really interesting, and I think Memphians will be really interested to hear, is he said, yeah, obviously rapists, murderers, people pulling triggers, those are, and I'm paraphrasing him here, are really important, and they need to be get off the streets. But he also talked about essentially property crime, that, we've all experienced, most people in Memphis either know someone or have had their car broken into, right? And what he was talking about is, like, can a police department take 1 or 2 calendar days out of a month, so just days out of the month, and just go knock on doors for the people who are suspected of a broad swath of property crimes and try to get them off the street and try to solve those crimes and sort of lower people's perception of feeling unsafe? And I thought that was a very interesting thing that he said in that television interview, and I would encourage people, we linked it in the story, to go watch it if they want to see it.
I like hearing that. I also like the fact that the city of Memphis and the Memphis Police Department looking at the New York Police Department, because I do remember several years ago, and this is going back maybe a decade or longer, Sam, that we used the New York Police Department, a lot of their crime initiatives, to implement more savvy, data-driven police initiatives with Memphis Police's Blue Crush. And that was very effective with Larry Godwin a number of years ago, where at one point Larry Godwin's last year as Memphis Police Director, it was under 100 homicides, which you think about it now, where it's almost at 400, under 100 homicides, which was a incredible number. And again, they used data and data-driven technology to really kind of hone in on some of the hot spots. I also like the fact that Pichardo, I think is his name, is not being paid by the city of Memphis or the Memphis Police Department. Explain that for our viewers.
Yeah, he's not. I was, the first thing when you see a consultant and you're covering government is like, well, how much is this person getting paid? How much taxpayers are paying them? And so when I pulled up the contract yesterday and looked at it, Pichardo is not getting paid by the police department. Instead, the city, he is instead getting paid by First Horizon Bank, the Memphis-based regional bank here. The terms of his compensation, the LLC that is attached to him, are not disclosed. I think that's interesting. We'll see if that is public record, or if his compensation, because it's being paid by the private sector, isn't public record. We'll certainly test that. But yeah, right now, city taxpayers are not paying for this consultant.
I wonder, and you mentioned in the article that this is a part of Mayor Young's kind of broader focus on really honing in on some of the aspects of tackling crime, something that he mentioned on the campaign trail, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right. So Mayor Young has now been in office for 7 and change months, I guess. No, 6 and change. I'm sorry, I'm doing the wrong math. And so, he's moved, I wouldn't say slowly, I would say deliberately. The mayor is someone who learns, someone who observes quite a bit, and now is starting to make some decisions. He obviously let go of Assistant Chief Sean Jones about a week and a half ago now, maybe 2 weeks ago. And he's also making this move right around the same time. And so I think people should be focusing, and because I think they're starting to see the steps that the new mayor is taking, right? He didn't come in guns blazing and, just change everything overnight. But now 6+ months in, you're starting to see some moves being made. And I think they're really worth watching. And one of the things that he said right after he got elected, right? Because people say a lot of things on the campaign trail, they're trying to get votes. After he got elected, he, in an interview with the Daily Memphian with me, and then he's said it elsewhere since then, all over the place, is he wanted a pandemic-like response to crime. And he wanted to tame, I think, the chaos on the streets and the chaos that people feel. And I think that's one of the things the mayor has been really felt a lot since he's taken office, and since he really won election, is that people really want to see. We've talked about it before, Andrew. Like, you drive down 240, you don't want to see somebody weaving in and out of traffic at a high rate of speed with drive-out tags, right? Which is almost a frequent occurrence. If you just drive around the loop, chances are you'll see somebody doing that, right? And so I think that you can look at this and see it as the early steps to maybe changing some of that. Whether, the proof is always going to be in the pudding. And so whether the results line up, whether we see a decrease in homicides, from the peak that we had last year of 398 homicides, you're talking about, 10, 11, 12 years ago, under 100 homicides in the city of Memphis. That's wild. I mean, that's wild considering that city of Memphis in a 3-month span can probably have 300 homicides, depending, how it's going. So we're really going to see what the mayor has going forward. And this is definitely a first step.
Yeah. And, we're all, cheering any kind of positive result, because this is one of those where it's like we're all hoping that the mayor can bring a calmness, a peace to the city, and also bring down and reduce drastically some of the crime that is plaguing currently the city. I loved your other article here, really kind of focusing on a person who's been a public servant for so long, someone that I know who used to work here at Action News 5 a long time ago, but has been in the public service realm for a long, long time and just retired. Tell me more about Steve Schuler.
Yeah, Steve Schuler just retired as, I guess, special assistant to the mayor for neighborhood concerns. And that's a fancy title for really unglamorous work. Steve, as many people know, and writing that story, I've gotten so many emails. Everyone's got a Steve Schuler story. And Steve Schuler, for the past 5-6 years, maybe 7, I think, has worked returning to city government, and has really worked on blight remediation, unmowed lawns, like resident complaints, right? Things that are afflicting a neighborhood. People call him, and he would work to fix them, and he would try to find solutions within city government. And he also had the ear of now Mayor Young, but for a long time really serving with Mayor Strickland, former Mayor Strickland, and really sort of trying to give people the results that they ask for from their government and really give them access to the very top of government. And this wasn't, just special favors. These are people just in the neighborhoods calling Steve and asking him to work on their behalf. And that's what he did. And he did it with, a lot of class and a lot of politeness over the years. And like I said, everyone's got a Steve Schuler story. He just retired last week. He was at WMC in the 1980s. He was working on, consumer watchdog type stories then. The same type of stuff he started working on at City Hall. He worked in Shelby County government. He worked for Methodist Le Bonheur. He's done it all, and he's really been, one of the people that works behind the scenes to make things a little bit better every day for Memphians.
Yeah, and just such a nice guy with an incredibly positive and upbeat disposition. Really enjoy him. I would recommend all our viewers to check out your articles at dailymemphian.com. Sam Hardiman, anything else before we let you go?
Nope. Hope you stretch before pickleball, Andrew, and everyone have a great week.
Yes. Sam Hardiman. Always appreciate the discussions, man. And one of these days we'll hit the golf ball around. I look forward to that day, whenever it is. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Man. Good morning. Welcome back to the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Let me talk about dry eye for a minute here. It is increasingly common, and it can range from occasional symptoms to chronic disease. Symptoms that can include scratchy or gritty feelings, redness, fluctuation of vision, blurriness, tired eyes, and eye irritation. So what causes it, and how do we manage some of those symptoms? I'm joined right now by a couple of people that can really help us with this discussion right now. I'm joined by Dr. Christopher Starr. He's a refractive and cornea surgeon, and Rebecca Petrus. She's president and co-founder of the Dry Eye Foundation. Thank you both for joining us. Dr. Starr, let me start with you. Tell me first, what is dry eye and what causes it? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. We're very happy to be here. Dry eye disease or dry eyes are exactly that. It's when our eyes get dried out, they get irritated, they get gritty, sandy, burnt. Sometimes the symptoms are burning and stinging, and very commonly the symptoms are blurry vision or fluctuating vision and a whole host of other symptoms that one can have. And it is a very common condition. It's something, as an ophthalmologist, I see every single day, many, many times. And so Rebecca and I are here to raise awareness, to let people know that this is a real condition. It's not something that people should suffer with. There are great treatments for this. It is very common. You're not the only one. And so see an eye doctor if you have any of these symptoms and get treated as quickly as possible. Dry eye is usually caused by either a decrease in tear production. Our eyes don't make enough tears, or the tears that we make are of poor quality and tend to evaporate very quickly, leading to dry spots on the eyes. And each of those things can lead to those symptoms I've just described and can lead to these changes in our vision. It's extremely common, and we see it in all ages, not just older people. We see it in kids, we see it in young adults. And a big driver in that younger population is exactly what we're doing right now, which is staring at our computers. We don't blink as often. Our eyes tend to dry out, the tears evaporate. We're not blinking to reestablish the tear film. and we get dry eyes, and that of course gets worse and worse and worse as the hours add up and the days add up and the years add up. And that's a big cause of dry eyes. But there are plenty and plenty of other things that lead to dry eyes, other medical conditions, autoimmune conditions, and a whole host of other diseases can lead to dry eyes. Medications that we take, the environment, our diets, things we put in our bodies, humidity, low humidity, blowing air. The list goes on and on and on and on. But the common thing are these symptoms, and if you have any of these symptoms, see an eye doctor as quickly as you can.
Rebecca, over to you. I want to ask you something, Rebecca, if you don't mind. Tell me what, from your capacity, I mean, you are the president of the Dry Eye Foundation. What do you hear the most from people that have these dry eye symptoms? What kind of complaints, how does it impact their daily life?
Right. So there's dry eye and there's dry eye, right? Anybody can have a little bit of dry eye symptoms. Most of us do occasionally. That's a whole different thing than dry eye disease, where your eyes, whatever specific symptoms you've got, your eyes are basically uncomfortable all day long. And that is going to affect pretty much everything that you do. Work comes to mind first, because as Dr. Starr said, we're just on screens all of the time. That's one of the environments where we're going to experience this the most. Being outdoors is an issue for people. Driving is an issue for a lot of us. Being in over air conditioned or heated environments. There's just a lot of circumstances that are going to make us very uncomfortable. The recent Bausch & Lomb survey did a really great job of highlighting some things about this, like the fact that there's so many people with dry eye, but yet so few are seeing an eye doctor. Because what happens is we don't go to get help for it until it's gotten to the point where it's seriously interfering with our lives. So another thing that they highlighted in the survey was what this means to people who are going through it. They found that 8 out of 10 people who have these more advanced forms of dry eye, the persistent symptoms, they're constantly aware of how their eyes feel. Normal people are not going to notice how their eyes feel all day long. We do, and that's our impetus to do something about it. So Dr. Starr and I are wanting to raise awareness to say, please get to the doctor earlier. If you start experiencing these more and more, or you find you're using eye drops regularly, you really want to get checked out.
Dr. Starr, let me ask you, so how do people, what's best practices to manage symptoms and reduce symptoms?
Well, the best thing to do is to see the eye doctor, because there are so many ways to go about treating this and diagnosing it, by the way. And it's good to and there are usually lots of variables. It's multifactorial often. And so we can kind of guide you into the best sort of practice for managing this as best as possible. A lot of people will start sort of self-treat on their own, and that's usually the over-the-counter eye drops, and that's perfectly reasonable place to start. Over-the-counter lubricating drops, put them in when the symptoms come on. Certainly, if you're taking them more than 2 or 3 times a day, that's really a good indication to see a specialist. Warm compresses, sort of dietary changes, avoiding low humidity and blowing air. Very importantly, on the computer, we should all be blinking more often, taking breaks, looking away from this close computer into the distance. And I always recommend just kind of closing the eyes, as I'm doing now, for 20 seconds or so every 20 minutes, just to kind of let the eyes re-lubricate. But very importantly, see an eye doctor. We have great treatments for all stages of ocular surface and dry eye disease, from prescription medications to procedures that we do in the office, to specialty contact lenses and tear duct plugs. And the list goes on and on and on and on. So very important to get the diagnosis, get a customized treatment plan, and get this condition reversed.
Rebecca, over to you. Tell me where people can get more information and just, get some questions answered if they have dry eye.
Right. Well, we're a nonprofit organization. Our main website is dryeyefoundation.org. We've got tons of educational materials there for people, and also support, because people who are going through the severe versions of this, they're having a hard time. They're seeing impact at work, they're seeing impact throughout their life, and connecting people who can share advice and support is really important to us.
Okay, Rebecca
Boston Loam has
Petrus.
a website
And
called.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say Boston Loam has a website called knowyourdryeye.com as well, which is also a great resource in addition to Rebecca's website.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you both joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks for joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. The big story today, a first alert to you, a wet day across the Mid-South. Of course, periods of heavy downpours will likely continue to be part of the story as we go through the course of not just today, but likely the next couple of days across the region. We'll take a look at it here. And of course, you see the showers and storms, especially for areas near into the south of the I-40 corridor, seeing those better chances for rain and storms to develop across the area as you head down towards central Mississippi. Some spots 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, but even locally here, I think there could be some spots 1 to 2 inches with locally heavier amounts between now and probably the end of the work week. And of course, near and south of I-40, as you look ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, seem to be the highlight points for the localized heavier pockets of rain. That comes along with this stalled frontal boundary that is not really moving all that much and won't really move out of here until probably the end of the work week heading into the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, off and on showers. Keep those umbrellas nearby here today as we go through the course of your Tuesday. High temperatures in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Let's go hour by hour with our first alert futurecast. And again, you'll see those waves of showers and thunderstorms kind of working their way across the area. The better chances this afternoon do shift farther to the south as the area of low pressure starts to pull away from us. There might be a couple of peaks of sun here and there. The coverage of rain will stay elevated overnight tonight after midnight into the start of your Wednesday. Again, the better rain chances are higher potential for widespread heavy rainfall could be farther south of the I-40 corridor, and we'll do the whole process over again between Wednesday night into Thursday. Some periods of heavy rainfall lifting across the area closer to that boundary near and south of I-40. The farther north that you are, the less of a coverage that you'll probably see as we head through that time frame as a ridge of high pressure out to the west of us starts to build back towards the east, back to the east of us is going to build back westward here the next couple of days. And of course, that squeeze play still plays out for us with that stalled boundary to keep up a chance for showers and thunderstorms. Now look out to the west, big ridge of high pressure across the western United States. That actually may be what is heading in our direction as we head towards the back end of this week. And when we look at the bigger picture again, you see that ridge developing out towards the west, and that will build eastward as we head through the next couple of days. So eventually our temperatures will start to go up, and we'll be on the outer periphery of that ridge of high pressure. That will also help to facilitate some daily chances for rain and storms, but at least we get at least near the ridge of high pressure enough that it brings down the coverage of rain and storms as we head through that time frame. Of course, we want you to stay weather aware and up to date with this anytime and everywhere on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. Download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So what does that all come down to and boil down to? Well, off and on showers and storms will continue to be elevated, the coverage at least, between now and Thursday. Thursday. We may need to up those rain chances for Friday as well, just depending on how quickly that ridge can expand in our direction. At any rate, though, the temperature's running well below average for this time of the year. The average high 92. We're probably running a bit on the milder side as we head into the next couple of days, though the temperatures do start to creep back up into the upper 80s and low 90s. The coverage, again, of rain starts to come down a little bit, around 30%. As that ridge starts to expand, we'll be watching to the north and west of us rather than the south and west of us to watch for our next system coming down the pipeline. That could happen as we head towards late Monday into Tuesday as a disturbance dives off the eastern periphery of that ridge of high pressure developing out west of us. That'll help to facilitate another band of showers and storms, but also, again, gets us back closer to normal as far as temperatures are concerned, heading through the latter portion of July into the beginning portions of August. But in the meantime, though, this week, staying elevated on those rain chances, lower than average temperatures before we start to creep our way back to the quote-unquote average for the latter half of July as we head through the course of the weekend and into next week.
The digital world, it can be challenging to navigate. I don't care who you are, if you're tech savvy, certainly if you're not. Snapchat, have you heard of Snapchat? I know your teen has, and perhaps younger adults out there. It's working to make its app even safer, now expanding to a wide range of features to help keep the Snapchat place an area where people can be comfortable expressing themselves with the friends they know in real life. Let's talk more about some of these extra protections right now. I'm joined by Rachel Hockhauser, the head of safety operations outreach for Snapchat. She's joining us on the digital desk. Rachel, good morning to you. Tell me about these expanded safety features.
Good morning, and thanks so much for having us here today. So Snapchat is made for real friends to communicate, and today we're announcing expanded features to really help reinforce that communication is happening between people who know each other in real life. So for example, one of the features is a pop-up message that a teen would get when we can see that they're being communicated with by somebody they may not know, urging them to consider whether they want to be in contact with this person. We're also preventing certain suspicious friend requests from even reaching teens to begin with. We are also, one we're really excited about is an improvement to our blocking system. So now, we encourage users to block people when when somebody is reaching out to them with unwanted or unwelcome contact. And now that single block will block any associated accounts now or into the future made by that person who's offering the unwelcome contact. And so we're really excited about the improvements that these features will make to keep communication on Snapchat between people who know each other in real life.
Was there an issue that brought this about, or is this something that's just evolved? I mean, how did this happen?
It's an evolution, quite honestly. We have in the past been working to keep our users safe and platform and Snapchat a place where people can engage joyously and safely. We've been doing it in the past, we're doing it now, and we'll continue doing it in the future, because when we're talking about safety on Snapchat, and also in particular the safety of our younger users, our work is never done.
So when someone logs on, for example, today, are they going to see the safety features? Do they have to enable them? How's it going to work?
No, they don't have to enable them. It's part of the basic functioning of the application now. It's just, of the app now. It's just updates that we've made and we're really excited about. So we want people to know about them. And there are all kinds of safety features like that that are built into the app, some of which actually engage with the user, just like that pop-up.
Okay, and did you mention the location sharing? Tell me more specifically about that, because I know location is a very sensitive issue.
Sure, I didn't talk about location sharing, but I'm glad you asked about it. You know, location sharing is something that has to be opted into on Snapchat. It is off by default for all users. And so it has to be opted into specifically. And then you can set to share your location with particular friends and not with others, or particular posts and not with others. So there's a lot of, it's very dynamic. It's not a choice to, oh, okay, I'm going to turn on location sharing and then you're just sharing it with everybody. Our users, our Snapchatters really have the ability to very specifically control who and when they want to share their location.
We have thousands of people that watch us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Rachel, anything else we can touch on, maybe for those parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, family members that have younger people in their lives and maybe aren't familiar, firsthand about Snapchat? Anything else you'd like to tell them?
Yes, I would like to tell them about our parents.snapchat.com website. And we created this website at parents.snapchat.com specifically for people who may not be on the app themselves, but want to learn more about it because their teens or other family members are on it. And it has a lot of really great, useful information to try to explain Snapchat to people who may not be as familiar with it. And it also has a lot of great information about our parent tools, which is our family center, parents.snapchat.com.
Okay, Rachel Hockhauser, Snapchat's head of safety operations. We appreciate your time. Very valuable information you shared with us here on the Digital Desk. Thank you very much. Summer swim season is in full swing. You know it is, especially with our warm temperatures. Many are headed to the water, the beach, the heat. With everyone going to the water, we want to make sure that we are safe and all family members are safe. Let's bring in Connie Harvey. She is Director of Aquatics and Centennial Programs with the American Red Cross. Connie, good morning to you. So let's start with some safety tips, just some quick guidelines for people headed out either to the beach, to the pool this summer. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on this important topic. We want to talk to people about being water smart and what that means. It is a combination of things. It's knowing how to prevent drowning from happening in the first place. It's having at least a basic set of swimming skills, and it's knowing what to do in the event of an emergency. And this is important for everybody, but especially for children. So some critical layers of protection to prevent drowning start with preventing unsupervised access to the water. It's also about having close and constant adult supervision whenever children are in or near the water, and it's knowing how to swim. In fact, research shows that participation in swimming lessons that are formal swimming lessons with water safety, that can reduce someone's risk of drowning as much as 88% for kids between the ages of 1 and 4. As a community, we all have an important role here to play in making the water safer for everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember when my kids were very little, our pediatrician talked about how under the age of 5, water is the most dangerous thing to them. It's the #1 killer for kids under the age of 5. Are there certain specific things to watch for with pools at a home per se?
Yes, at home, the most drownings of young children do happen at homes in their residential pool, and it happened at non-swim time. And these were kids who were intended to be in the water. That we are intended to be in that home, but it was during non-swim time. They were not expected to be in the water at that time. So a really universal tip that everybody should follow, but it's especially important for those with a home pool, is teach kids to ask for and get permission before they ever go in or near the water. And there should always be an adult who is supervising them whenever they are there. Specific to the pool, there should be 4-sided fencing. That means a fence around all sides of the pool, that the home itself is not one of those barriers, because again, kids are accessing pools from within the home that they were supposed to be in. So those 4-sided fence, there should be a self-closing, self-latching gate where the latch itself is outside of the reach of a child. Make sure you have appropriate safety equipment. We teach a concept called reach or throw, don't go, and that is using a reaching device or a throwing device to be able to get to somebody in the water without getting in danger yourself. But other important safety equipment to have around a home pool is a phone, and it might be your cell phone, which is obviously just fine, but you want to be able to call 911 without ever leaving that pool area. Other pieces of equipment that you should consider are life jackets that are U.S. Coast Guard approved, and anybody that is a non-swimmer or a very weak swimmer, it's a good idea for them to wear a life jacket when they are near the water and also in the water. And then anybody who is on a boat, we also encourage them to wear a life jacket. But let me say one more thing about life jackets, is we also want to make certain that there is not a persistent use of life jackets to the extent that a child never gets the opportunity to know what it's like to be in the water without wearing a life jacket. So it's really important to give them that experience, but to also have that life jacket on if particularly you're with a group of people that just gives you an extra layer of protection while they're in the water.
That sounds great. Connie, what about programs that the American Red Cross may have for people just to kind of either learn how to swim and feel better about getting in the water, that sort of thing?
Sure. So the Red Cross, through its aquatics training providers throughout the U.S., teach about 2.5 million people each year how to swim and about water safety. And Red Cross curriculum covers kids from as young as 6 months to about 3 years old. And those kind of experiences are when an adult, the parent or another caregiver, are in the water with them. And those programs are as much about teaching that adult about water safety and handling their child in a way in the water that helps set them up for success as they're learning to swim. But then it also goes through preschool and school-age children and for adults as well. So we run the entire spectrum for swimming lessons for people of all ages. But we also have water safety programs for kids where we teach concepts like you should never swim alone, that there should always be an adult supervising you whenever you're in the water. You understand life jackets and you know about reaching or throwing. And this program it's a free dry land water safety education program called Longfellow's Whale Tales, and WHALE stands for Water Habits Are Learned Early. So again, this is a free program that you can access online, that anybody can teach it after orientation to the materials, whether you're teaching a group or if you want to just teach your own kids about water safety. There's a section of our website that's very specific to that, which is redcross.org/water safety for kids. We also have many other resources like a free app, lots of information, and access to resources like free online courses on our website, redcross.org/water safety.
All right, Connie Harvey, we appreciate you, American Red Cross, and everything that the Red Cross organization does. Thanks very much for these tips and tricks, and certainly this will help all of us have hopefully a safe and happy summer. We appreciate it. All right, that does it for us here with the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon. We got Action News 5 Midday coming up at the top of the hour with Jerry Askin, Ariana Poindexter, and Eric Brill. They'll take you through the next hour to just give you the latest news and headlines throughout the day across Memphis and the Mid-South. In addition to this forecast, when are we going to see sunshine again? And when are we going to get rid of this rain? Well, we'll continue to be following that. And then join us once again tomorrow morning, bright and early at 7 o'clock for another edition of the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We are on from 7 until 11 each and every weekday morning. We are on every digital platform, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and Roku. On our website, actionnews5.com, our free news app as well. And if you just want to watch us on television, you can do so at Digital Channel 5.3. That's the Action News 5 Plus channel, or channel 907 on Xfinity. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon.